Big 12 Today with Ari and James. Monday through Friday, 8 to 11 a Eastern Time. Your home for all things Big 12.
And away we go on a Tuesday. Happiness is a choice. Thank you for choosing us, along with James Westling. I am Ari Temkin. Cheers to all you Modelo full-time fans. We are presented by Modelo. Modelo fan rule number 99. The season never really ends when you're a full-time fan. It just changes shape. Portals, drafts, signups, prep. You stay ready.
We're always ready. We were born ready.
Getting ready for the NFL draft, which is a week from Thursday, with our Modelo off-season series as it continues from Saturdays to Sundays. We're breaking down West Virginia and UCF prospects, plus taking a long, hard look at the running back position in the Big 12, and may not see, probably won't see, definitely won't see, most likely will not see a running back come off the board out of the Big 12 in the 2026 draft, but we saw many in 2025 and probably will in 2027.
We saw so many in 2025. It was a historic year for the league at that position. In fact, half of the overall running backs taken in the NFL draft came from this conference. So we knew that new running backs were going to emerge this past college football season because of all those departures. And I would say that the league had a lot of guys that really stepped up, but those guys are either one, at new schools because they've transferred out, or two, still in the Big 12. I mean, the guy that would have been first off the board would have been L.J. Martin. Well, he decided to come back to school. I thought Dylan Edwards coming into last year could maybe be a pro, got injured, now he's at Kansas. Bryson Washington still had eligibility. He transfers to Auburn. And also just the overall NFL running back class is maybe the worst it's ever been. Like, it's Jeremiah Love, who's probably going to be a top 10, top 15 pick, and then nobody ranked higher than like 60th on the overall big board. So it's really thin. So the league, my point in saying that is the league is not down at that position compared to other conferences because overall it's really down this year. And a ton of guys had breakout rookie campaigns from this league, which was super exciting to watch and it'll be fun to talk about.
Yeah, we'll get into that. Plus, former Utah Ute running back Zack Moss joins us later on in the show. How are you doing today?
I'm fine.
Okay.
I would say I'm
look a little flustered by the
fine.
question. It wasn't like a esoteric question. It was
the way you asked it, and as I'm chat GPTing, which is really Claude for us now, why I can't sleep at night. My brain immediately went to, do I look groggy? Do I feel groggy? Having sleep problems, really for the first time in my life.
Okay.
And I've always been a sound, rock-solid sleeper. You know I don't deviate from my
No, right.
bedtime
I'm wondering
routine.
if something's happened here. Are you staying up later? Are you drinking caffeine later?
None of the above. None of the above.
Are you
but-
getting up to go to the bathroom?
Well, no. No.
Huh.
That's the thing. All the
Just wake up.
all the
Oof.
typical like things that most people deal with, I'm not dealing with. I'm just up. Can't fall back asleep. Been getting up at like between 4 and 5 a.m. the last couple of weeks. And then we went out to California, which really threw off my sleep schedule. And so maybe I'm thinking, well, I got too much sleep there. Maybe that's why I haven't been able to sleep back at home. You think that's it?
At this point, anybody's guess is that or you're stressed. We've got tax day in a few days here. We've got your taxes all settled.
Do I have my taxes settled? No.
Well, they're it's due in a few days here.
I filed a tax extension,
Oh, okay.
which has been my go-to move for the last 3 years now.
Yeah.
I'm very, very – I don't procrastinate on filing the extension to make sure that I don't have a hard deadline. And when you file the extension, they give you until basically the end of time to get it done. As long as I have it done by this time next year, I should be in good shape.
Basically the end of time. But if you do owe money to the IRS, that clock keeps ticking, just so you're aware.
Yeah, and I'm not really sure how that's going to shake out this year.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Can I
You pay in? Are you a pay-in guy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I always owe money.
Yeah, that's not fun.
No, it's not.
That's not fun.
It feels like I shouldn't be in that category. I want to blame somebody. I need somebody to blame for it.
Yeah. I mean, Dave Ramsey preaches that you should always be like break even. That's where you want to be. Because if you're getting too much back, that actually means you're losing money because you've overpaid to the government.
Right.
So if you're at that break-even point, that's where you really want to be. So that's always kind of what I shoot for.
I think I'm going to be there next year, but we had some difficulties with. Anyways, we don't have to get into that.
I just say lie. Just lie on your taxes to where you get to that break-even point, you'll be fine.
Nobody has ever gotten in trouble for lying to the IRS.
No.
Ever. It's
They've
never
got
happened.
big problems. We're not two of them.
Yeah, that's true. I was noticing this recently, and it just continues to boggle my mind and really bother me. Television. You've heard of it, yes?
Yep.
You all right?
No.
I'm just going to let you choke out here on national TV.
I don't know what happened there, but yes, I'm familiar with television.
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, we are appearing on television right now via Big 12 Studios. At big12studios.com, you can find us on Roku, Amazon Prime Video, Tubi. And this is kind of at the root of my problem. Not that there's all these platforms. But, like, okay, so I'm watching the Masters and over the weekend. And, the Masters is because they've got to bring you great access on, like, 7 different channels. Right, so I'm on one channel, and then, it's the final round on Sunday, and suddenly I get this message across my television that says, hey, like, your event has ended. No, it hasn't. It's still going on. So then I got to look and find one of the other 7 channels it's on to find it. Then I get to the channel it's on, 5 minutes in, it's like, hey, this is available in 4K. You interested? You want 4K? Yeah, why not? I like sports. Cool. Then, so it takes me to the 4K channel. Your broadcast has ended.
I mean, that used to be when streaming first broke onto the scene. That was a major issue. I haven't had it happen in a while.
It continues to happen.
But even on, like the platforms you're talking about, they would block out 2 hours for a basketball game, 3.5 hours for a football game. And then they didn't have, like, the extensions built in right, and so it would just end. The broadcast would just disappear. There'd be 90 seconds to go in a college football game or the final half minute of a college basketball game, and it just turns off.
Your broadcast has ended. No, it hasn't. I can promise you that. And it's like, why does it need to be on 7 channels? Can it just be on 1 channel? And then that way that broadcast goes all the way through to the end of the broadcast? That's a novel concept. I mean, it's like all of these TVs now, like I have an LG TV, and it's like really insisting that I used the LG TV software and not the Roku that I have. It's like every time you turn the TV on, it's like, oh, you want TV? No? Okay, then find the remote, and then now you've got to shift to a different channel in order to get your Roku. And then, oh wait, no, okay, fine, you're okay, you're lazy, you can't find the remote. Go ahead, you can use one of the apps here on our smart platform. Sure, no, but now you got to download the app.
Exactly.
And, by the way, to download the app, you need to sign in. You need to have an LG account.
Yep.
Everybody needs your email address. Everybody needs your passwords and information, and it's like 20 minutes later, I've got nothing on the TV because I'm lazy.
It's infuriating.
On the other one, this is the one that just you never have the right subscription. Like, oh, you want to watch that game? Oh, that's the Platinum Ultra package, right? So that's another $15 a month. If you want that one, they're like, all right, sure, I'll take that one, and then you're watching your game, and then you're like, but how about this baseball game? Oh, no, not the no, that's the gold package? Yeah, you got to get the gold package for that one.
Right.
It's never the right one.
Platinum for the other one. If they're leading the league in their division, it's the platinum package.
It's the platinum package.
Well, in hotels now, like, remembering your passwords has never been more important than it is in today's era. Because
Right.
you go to a hotel and you go to sign in. Now these hotels have all the streaming platforms right there. But
Oh,
you have
yeah.
to sign in on your phone. You have to remember your password. We're so bad at remembering passwords that, and we have an LG TV too. And I'm sure all these different Samsung, LG,
It's the same thing.
they all have the same issue, right? So when we bought our home about 3 years ago, the previous owners had this really nice TV that was kind of like anchored to the wall, almost like built into the wall, and they left it there for us, which was very kind of them. They're still signed in, and we are still signed in under Nance for a lot of different accounts because we don't want to go through the trouble of having to remember our password every time we get into
believe
YouTube.
there hasn't been like a sign out at any point during that. Wow.
I mean, we have the same apps. Like, I'm sure we could do it if we needed to, but old Nance, we're just crushing her YouTube. If she's signing into YouTube, she's getting Unspeakable, she's getting Messi videos, all kinds of stuff.
Messy videos?
Lionel Messi.
Oh, I think it meant like
Soccer player.
MESSY. I was like, what are that? What kind of it's a weird
ASMR,
category?
weird satisfaction stuff for the kids. I don't know.
Just guys rolling around a mess.
Guys opening toys. It's
Yeah,
weird.
it's weird stuff. The other one, and I found this with ESPN. ESPN has like 7 different streaming platforms right now, and it's never the right one, no matter what I want to watch. It's like, oh no, that's a different one. That one's costs more money.
Yeah.
And then you try to sign in. You have the account, like everything's. I know this is what I have. This happened to me for Big 12 Hoops a few times. You sign in. I know I have this account. You sign in. It's like, yeah, you got to upgrade.
Yep.
No, I don't. This is it. Then you sign out. You try to sign back in again. You try to call. So I mean, same thing. It's like at some point I'm just giving up.
Well, and
I paid $100 or $150 a year to get all these games, and I've given up because I can't sign in.
Totally. And you're not alone. I mean, I've had family members text me trying to find my game, and they'll be like, I can't find
Well, that was it. Why would else would I be logging into ESPN Plus?
And ESPN is recalibrating their app to where I think like ESPN Plus is going away. It's just going to be ESPN. Now I'm sure they're going to be charging more for it, but I also saw we didn't talk about this. Is it CBS that's looking at buying somebody? Is it? I know Paramount and CBS are all under the same umbrella, but there's like a potential merger that in terms of content and numbers would be on par with what ESPN has. Like right now, that's the
Warner Brothers Discovery.
Okay, is that it?
I believe so. Yes.
And which groups would that pair together? Not to put you on the spot, we could do a little more research, but it's just it's really kind of like it caught my attention. Thinking there's never really been like another outlet besides ESPN when it comes to just the sheer numbers and volume of events that company has, and this would rival that, and that would get really interesting to me.
Yeah, the transaction, Paramount Skydance is acquiring Warner Brothers Discovery in a $110 billion deal. So Paramount's acquiring Warner Brothers Discovery. I think there was talk about Netflix acquiring both.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
But the deal is, it's just an endless amount of apps. I feel like I'm constantly on the phone, and this is more of like a theoretical than an actual literal sense, with like somebody from some TV service company that's like selling me the package, and then any package that I want doesn't include something else that I want. Then I need another package with another password and another login, and even then it's like, what? But you're not going to get everything.
Right.
They're just constantly ripping the rug out from underneath you. Like, yeah, but that doesn't include this.
Well, and the other thing that I think if our generation is starting to become annoyed by this, I can only imagine the generation before us. And that is sometimes I can't find the event that I want to watch. The NCAA tournament, the Final Four. We were at the Final Four, seating sitch. I ended up back at my hotel. I couldn't find the game. I went to CBS. I'm watching 60 Minutes. I'm like, where's the damn game?
Yeah, they put it on TBS. It's
Yes.
like, how is the final?
When did that happen?
Yeah.
I mean, born and raised, CBS, Channel 12, bam, it's there. TBS took me forever to find it.
I think they alternate, where it's like Warner Brothers gets it one year and Paramount, and now they're combining, so it won't even make a difference, I guess.
So will it just be on like all 4 channels?
And it will have the same problem.
Which-
Your event has ended. It's blacked out on this channel. Well, then can you take? Well, then stop suggesting a channel that doesn't exist. It's infuriating. And by the way, it's like all run by these computer systems that know way more about us and are packaging and repackaging our data and selling it. Meanwhile, you don't know what I want to watch, YouTube TV?
Right.
You're telling me I just flipped a game off of one television, I go to another TV, and you've got me on Bravo now?
Yeah.
What?
Well, and it's even worse for professional sports. And I think
Oh, it's way worse.
this next like run of media rights deals is fascinating, and I love what Commissioner Yormark in the Big 12 has done with all these different media partners, because now they get to be a little bit more selective and see how all this is going to come together. If ESPN doesn't have the bulk of the events anymore, or if there's somebody else that has entered the chat, maybe the Big 12 goes that direction. It's going to be really, really, I mean, the next 5 years are going to be wild.
Right.
When it comes to
no,
sports.
and I mean, when you look at what like specifically Warner Brothers Discovery did with the Big 12 package, with with the content, the halftime, the pregame, the postgame. Like when you compare and contrast that with ESPN, like you're just getting a lot more service, a lot more bells and whistles from a Big 12 perspective. And it's a great point. Like the TNT coverage of Big 12 basketball, Big 12 football is so far and beyond anything we've seen from ESPN, because ESPN's doing that for the SEC and the Big 10. Mm-hmm. So for the Big 12 to have kind of an exclusive partner that's as invested in the product as anybody else, as opposed to being like feeling very much second fiddle to ESPN, I think it makes a ton of sense.
And it was so much more than just the games itself. They're doing player features, extended pregame, extended postgame, and it was TNT for football, and then it was NBC for basketball.
That's right, NBC.
First NBC game I had, nobody told me that there was like a studio pregame show, and they're throwing it out to us like 30 minutes before tip-off. We're live on set. Had no clue any of this is happening, and so I'm kind of learning with the audience, and I'm like, this is awesome.
You're like my
these
other
guys are doing a
broadcasts.
full 60-minute pregame show on a Big 12 basketball game?
You're like, in my other broadcasts, I get it, like, they kick it to me when the game starts, and even then, that's not even always the case.
Very rarely is it the case. Absolutely. We're 6 minutes into the first half, and they're like, join in progress. Do your thing. NBC, it was like a whole setup. Even post-game, we're interviewing players and doing all these features. It was a really unique experience, and I can see why the Big 12 has done this.
And the word isn't unique because, like, that's what it used to be.
Yeah.
It used to be like that.
Right.
Like, the expectation was that, and now it's like the opposite. Yeah, there's not much. They'll do 15 minutes pregame, and then they'll kick it out to you, and then after the game, you kick it back to us, and we're done.
And I'm trying to find, like, who's the next conference to renegotiate, right? Big Ten's deal expires in 2030, so we're only 4 years away. And then you've got the Big 12 in 2031. You've got the SEC in 2034.
And then you find the ACC?
ACC, no.
Yeah.
I mean
2035.
It's 2035?
So remember this. The Big 10, the Big 12, and the SEC have all already done new deals after the ACC's latest deal. So all three of those conferences will have done two different deals before the ACC deal is up.
Wow.
Mark my words. The Atlantic Coast Conference is not making it to 2035.
No, it's not. It's not. And, I mean, this offseason, I don't expect a ton of movement, but next offseason and the year after that is where it's going to be another total landscape shift, because the rights fees, the exit fees for all of these ACC schools drops significantly. Like over the next 2 years, it's basically cut in half. So it's going to be a totally different escape plan for these schools, and I'm sure they're ramping up for that now.
Yeah. And I'll tell you the other thing that I wonder if it happens, because we are kind of a society of overcorrections, because we become so straddled in content, and I think there are long-term ramifications for sports in the way that sports is packaged and sold. Like, it's maximizing the current revenue today, but I think compromising long-term success because you're alienating fans by not having your game be so accessible. I think that there will be a push within the next 4 or 5 years with the Big 12 and the Big 10 rights to get more access for fans to watch games in a way that it wasn't a priority previously. Mm-hmm. And if it isn't, it's got to be a priority.
Real quick, if the ACC implodes, who does the Big 12 go after? Like, just hypothetical, who are the first 2, 3,
the first 4? One I think of is Louisville.
Okay.
I mean, I'm assuming at this point we're talking about Duke, North Carolina, Clemson, Florida State that are in another conference, not eligible for the Big 12, if you will.
Sure.
So it'd be anybody beyond that.
I would target Louisville and Pitt. Those would be my top 2. I'd take a stab at Miami, and then after that,
Miami's probably also going to be one of the 5.
Yeah. And then after that, that's where it gets interesting. Like, do you target Virginia, who just played in the ACC championship game? Do you lean into Virginia Tech, which has a lot of a rich history, large alumni base? NC State would be interesting if they don't go with North Carolina. Like, there's a lot of.
How about SMU?
SMU's right here in our backyard, but man, SMU needs growth on the facility side. Like, they don't feel like a Big 12 caliber school yet. That's not to say they can't get there, but
maybe they just roll over the current deal they have with the ACC. Like, yeah, you can join the Big 12, you just can't get any revenue.
And didn't they pay their way in?
Yeah.
To the ACC?
Yeah.
But I mean, they've got deep pockets.
Yeah.
They have deep pockets, so they could easily get there.
It's Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo. Heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios. A lot to get to with the WNBA draft last night. We check in on Big 12 players selected, including the number 2 overall pick, Olivia Miles, going to Minnesota. All that coming up. But on the way next, are fans at Colorado losing faith in Dion? Plus, why is their roster so tiny? All that next. This is Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio.
Farron is nails from 45 yards. He's hit from 24 and 45.
Farron from Kaysville, Utah. He hits this one well. Does it have the distance? Yes, it does. Banged it through the uprights into the net. Points on the board for BYU heading into the locker room.
New PB, new personal best. You blitz.
Will Farron 1 for 2. He missed from 36, made from 50, and now he has made from 41. As it's now 41-13. 7:09 to play at Lavelle Edwards Stadium.
Former Boise State Bronco, career long is 50.
Watch how fast this gets up.
Farron from 49, easily good.
Watch the low ball when they try and drive it out a little bit longer. Opportunity for a block.
Farron's kick has the distance, and it is good. He drilled it.
Man, that thing might
Just
have
the second he's hit in his career from 50-plus.
nice snap, nice hold. Didn't even kick up any of the rubber from the field there. Caught it cleanly. Picked it off of the turf, like you with your sweet 9-iron.
Already one fake field goal turned into a fourth down conversion today. Will Farron from 41 yards knocks it through. And it's 10-0 BYU. Just 7 seconds.
And Farron drills it.
Wow. He absolutely smoked that football at the gun to make it 20-0 BYU. A near perfect half for the Cougars.
And Farron is nails from 45.
Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio. We are presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios. And remember, there is no off-season in football. There's only research, which is a Modelo fan rule. And so that is what we endeavor to bring you consistently throughout the off-season, where there is no off-season, just research. James Westling, Ari Temkin on social at James Westling. You can always get me at Ari Sports. And we are coming to you from the Big 12 Studios, big12studios.com, to find all the platforms you can watch us, stream us. Did you see the clip from Colorado taking the field during their spring game, and then had everybody wondering why it looked like a bunch of fourth graders were playing for Colorado?
Yes, I did. It looked like a team was taking the field for a flag football game. They looked small. With that said,
you can see the video now that they're showing on Big 12 Studios. It features Juju Lewis, who's just a shade over 6 foot tall. Also, by the way, did you know Juju's still only 18 years old?
yeah, because he was 17 when we talked to him at Big 12 Media Days last year.
Yeah, he'll be 19 in September. So, yeah, the video you just saw at Big 12 Studios, number one, I think most of them are wearing Guardian caps, which I think makes guys look smaller. Number two, you can never tell from the vantage point of the camera. And number three, you didn't get any linemen. It's just skill position guys.
Right. I mean, this is very much being overhyped and overplayed. And if you look at the jersey numbers, so it is Julian Lewis. And to be fair, Juju Lewis is not a big guy.
Right.
I mean, he is right at probably 6 feet tall. He's less than 200 pounds. He has a thinner frame. But you don't have to be Josh Allen to play quarterback in college football. I'm more concerned with the cerebral aspect of his game and that development, because we know that he can spin it. The guy has a cannon for an arm, and for Colorado's sake, hopefully he's not taking a ton of hits. And in this new go-go offense, it's pretty protective of the quarterback, and it's built for teams that I wouldn't say the offensive line is a weakness, but it's built to be simplified for the offensive line. And it's quick decision-making, but it's not 3 or 4 reads. It's quick snap progressions, and so it's built for a smaller football team. With that said, past Julian Lewis, if you watch that video, the guys running out of the tunnel are wearing 33, 27, 20, 26, and it's a spring game. So the studs aren't the first guys out of the tunnel. Okay, it's the guys that are competing for the 4th-string running back or the 5th-string cornerback position that are first out of the gate in that video. But man, it did make the rounds on social media, and people are all over it.
Yeah, the other thing that has made its rounds on social media is the lack of attendance to the spring game, and maybe not as much the lack of attendance, but where has the attendance gone? So, you know, when Dion was first hired, it was well documented. I mean, they had 50,000 people at the stadium for their spring game. Then that went to 28,000 in 2024, down to 20,000 in 2025, and they approximated about 17,500 attended the 2026 spring game. And the school claimed it was 27,000, but 17,500 is what the closer estimation would look like. And I mean, there are pictures that prove it. What I think is interesting is, like, yeah, they went 3-9 last year. Like, what do you expect? You know, of course, it's not going to be a 50,000 attended event like it was in Deion's first year. I mean, it's not as new and shiny and flashy anymore. And, I mean, like, I understand why a lot of people might be pessimistic about this team. They went 3-9 last year.
Right.
Like, of course.
A 3-9 football team is not going to put 50,000 people in the seats for a spring game, regardless of who the coach is. And he's 16-21 over his 3 seasons. He goes 4-8, he goes 9-4, and then he goes 3-9. But keep in mind, he took over a program that was, winless the year before, or 1-11, I think it was. The recruiting class, their high school class for 2026 is 15th out of the 16 Big 12 teams. That part's not great. They have the lowest projected win total for 2026. This is from Yahoo Sports at 4.5. I would take the over.
Pound the over.
Like, they've brought in some really nice portal guys, and Deion also, with all of his health issues last year, felt a little bit disconnected from the program, I think, publicly. So maybe that's another reason why the fan. And also, so the weather in Boulder, Colorado, it's 61 degrees with bright, sunny skies today. There's plenty of other things to do in Boulder, which we've talked to a lot of their beat writers about the fandom and how it can be a little bit dicey at times. But on college football Saturdays, even last year, they were selling out games. I remember the Iowa State game. It was a night game. It was electric in Boulder. And so if they do get to 6 or 7 wins this year, I think the fans are right back on board. But this isn't a huge deal to me.
Yeah, and a couple of things. Number one, Deion lives in the margins, and so it's either love or hate. There's just no intermediate, right? It's either he's the best or he's the worst. There really is no intermediate when it comes to the analysis around him. I also think there's a pretty important pattern developing here, which is hype, disappointment, roster reload, resurgence. And so this would be the year of resurgence. I'm pretty optimistic about this team for multiple reasons. Number one, what we just talked about. Number two, the offensive line. Georgia transfer Bo Hughley and Cal transfer Leon Bell average 6'7", 315 pounds. Demetrius Hunter, 6'2", 310 pounds for starting center. So, I mean, those guys clearly weren't in the clip that showed the smallish roster for Colorado, but more than anything, it's Bill Connolly noted this. Sanders brought in transfers who combined for 182 starts in 2025, the third highest tally of any team. And Brendan Marion's offensive system, the go-go offense, I think is going to be perfect for the type of players that they have. A big part of, and you talked about this, like a big part of the system is speed over size. So they've got some big-time offensive linemen, but they've got a lot of speed. Danny Scudero is their top wide receiver. He led college football in receiving last year. He's 5'7", 175 pounds, right? So, but he's a guy that had 1,200 receiving yards last year and was a monster at San Jose State. So I just think this go-go offense, which gets the ball out, gets it to guys in space, and forces teams to have to make tackles consistently. I think Colorado is, without a doubt, a bowl team next year. I think 6-7 wins is probably where they're going to end up.
Yeah. I 6-7.
Thank you.
The offense, to me, has been holding them back the last 3 seasons. Even when Shador was there with Travis Hunter, they had games where, I remember the Kansas game in Lawrence, KU just pinned their ears back and said, we're going to make Shador, we're going to blitz him with 5 or 6 guys every single snap, because Colorado's offense, to me, has been really predictable. The new offensive coordinator is going to be a game changer for them. But even with Shador, they were just dropping back and making him, or letting him, make plays. The pressures, all the sacks have been an issue. Last year they tried to reinvent their ground game, but it was very pedestrian. So I like what they've done with Marion. With that said, they have a brutal schedule next year. I can see why the win total is what it is, because they have 2 non-conference road games. They play at Georgia Tech, and then they play at Northwestern. If they split those 2 games, you have to feel really good about things. Then they've got Weber State. Then they play at Baylor, Texas Tech, Utah, at Oklahoma State are their next 4 games to kick off Big 12 play. It's going to be tough to find some wins in there. Down the stretch, if they are in contention to make a bowl game or be middle of the pack in the Big 12, their last 3 games is where the load gets lightened. But I can see why the tiny talk is a thing, because they were more decimated by injuries than anybody else in the Big 12. They had terrible injury luck. They had really bad turnover luck. They had just a lot of unforeseen circumstances go really wrong for Colorado last year.
Yeah, there's also been some interesting talk around college football about roster management and roster building. Do you hear this clip from Ryan Day? Here's Ohio State coach Ryan Day on the type of players he's looking for.
But I think it's just across the board at Ohio State. There's an expectation when you come here, you're coming to be a first or second rounder, regardless of your position. And that's it. Just like, if we don't win games and championships, they're going to find a new coach. Well, if you're not a first or second rounder, then this probably isn't the right place for you. And that's just the reality of it.
If you're not a first or a second rounder, this probably isn't the right place for you.
There's 105 guys on rosters now. So there's two ways those comments can go, right? It's very attractive to recruits to hear that. But if you have 105 guys and there's only X amount of snaps per game and everybody on that roster thinks they're a first or a second round talent, you're going to have locker room issues. Because there's not enough downs to be played for all of that talent to be on the field together.
Also, let me ask you a question here. Is it the player's responsibility to be a first or second round pick or the school's?
Ultimately, it comes down to the players.
Yeah, and maybe I didn't phrase that properly. Shouldn't Ryan Day be developing first and second round picks?
Yes.
Thank you.
That.
Thank you. Yeah, that's how I meant to say it.
Very much that. And there has to be...
And maybe he's saying that, but certainly in how that came off, it wasn't. It was like, we're only taking guys that are already made first or second round picks.
Right. We don't want to develop players.
Right. I mean, if I were him, I would lean more towards what Kirby Smart said on this exact thing, which is basically like, yeah, if you're coming for a paycheck, we're not the place for you. This is not the place for you if you're coming for a paycheck. He said, quote, if you're coming here for a paycheck, then you're coming to the wrong place. Now, whether there's a discrepancy of $3 million, $2 million, $5 million, or $10 million, it's like who's where and how. Nobody ever is really going to know because we've had to disclose the contracts. That's the most out-of-whack thing in the world. So basically what Kirby Smart is saying is, and this is kind of what Nick Saban said towards the end of his tenure, and it's interesting that Kirby's now saying it basically like, you can, the big money you're chasing is you come here and we'll set you up to get the big money. Mm-hmm. Again, it's what Saban said, and it makes sense, but doesn't speak to the current landscape of players.
And
they want to have their cake and eat it too.
Yeah, very much so. But I do think like Kirby Smart's angle builds or sets you up to have a better chance of having that locker room culture that college football coaches want, that they need, like they have at Arizona
Come prove
State.
It. Come prove it.
Exactly. Like they had at Iowa State, like they'll have at Penn State under Matt Campbell, is you get everybody on the same page, and regardless of what guys are making. And that is a thing that college football coaches have to manage. Like there are offensive linemen protecting a $6 million quarterback and making peanuts, right? Like the money just adds one more element of locker room issues that can already be there. Guys not getting along, it just can further magnify that. So how coaches manage that, and I think Joey McGuire does a phenomenal job at Texas Tech. Like they take this off-season training, week-long course at Texas Tech that's not about who's making how much money. Like it's about all the other things that build that locker room culture and camaraderie.
Well, and it is sort of funny too to have this like bravado from Ohio State and Georgia, two programs historically that have been so good, and yet at the same time, like Indiana just won the national championship. So like you can talk a big talk, Ohio State and Georgia, but the times they are changing. And like this bravado, like yeah, all those first, second round picks you had at Ohio State couldn't beat Indiana in the Big Ten championship. So many first and second round picks. We're about to hear about a lot of them in next Thursday's draft.
Yep.
They couldn't beat Indiana. Big, bad Indiana football.
But they got an awesome participation trophy for being in the college football playoff. And yeah, they have the deepest draft class right now for this upcoming draft. They've got, 3 guys that might go in the top 10?
Yeah.
Number 1 safety, number 1 receiver, number 1 or number 2 edge rusher. Like, they're loaded, and they still couldn't get past Miami.
Yeah. Or Indiana in the Big Ten championship.
Yeah.
That's James Westling. I'm Ari Tepkin. It's Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio. We are presented by Modelo. On the way next, it's the best new website that James has found.
Shooty Hoops.
And the founder of it, Lee McCormick, joins us next to talk about Shooty Hoops. and just how amazing of a resource it is to follow your favorite college basketball roster. It's Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo. Heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios.
Loyola steps up, and he's sacked. Back in their own territory at the 47 by Golday.
Fake it to Kingston and give it instead to Hagan. And he is dropped by Golday.
At home, Golday is right here off the edge. I want you to watch Corleone in the middle. He's the one that starts the disruption. Boom, swims through, makes everybody feel chaotic, and then Golday stays home where he's supposed to be.
Cincinnati.
Jake Golday's had a nice job off the edge. Dante Corleone pushing the pocket from the middle. Right there.
Bowling Green, find him, see him. Jake Golday pulverizing the quarterback. It's a sack and a loss of 7.
This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. A couple weeks ago, I guess this would have been last week now, when the portal opened, James Westling says to me, you got to check out this website, Shooty Hoops. It's like real-time updates with rosters and schedules, and sure enough, Lee McCormick from Shooty Hoops is joining us now to talk about this incredible new website. Is it new? Let's start there. Or are we just new to it?
No, I launched this year in October. I've been building it since February of this past year, at 25. Yeah.
So what is it? What's the elevator pitch on Shooty Hoops?
So
that I apparently just butchered.
No, that was great. Basically, it's just an interactive college basketball site where instead of consuming rankings, brackets, fans actually control outcomes. So you can pick a game and see the brackets and standings change in front of you. You can add a guy from the portal into your roster and see that impact right away.
So it has both the feature of like you can be GM and then see how things play out, but also like here's the reality of the situation.
Yep, basically giving you the tools that the front offices have, but it's free and no subscriptions or anything like that.
Yeah, Lee, so I stumbled across your site from an ad on Twitter, and normally it's nothing but garbage in terms of the ads, and I'm just scrolling as quickly as I can to get past them.
Actually, it's not just ads. It's usually normally garbage.
Yeah, just life in general. But then
on Twitter.
On Twitter only, of course. I see your site, and I give it a click, and I'm just blown away. Like, you have real-time projected depth charts for every team in America. It's easy to identify who are incoming transfers, who are returners, and then you also have a grade on every player, in overall, in offense, and defense, and it's even more in-depth than that. So what tools are you using to put together these roster grades and these individual player grades? I mean, you're updating in real time Big 12 rankings based off of current roster talent, and it's just it's incredible how you're doing this.
Yeah, I mean that's actually the hard part is I built an admin tool on the back end where I'm handling all this, but I'm pulling from a lot of different API sources. That not to get too technical or anything, but really from everywhere, even from Twitter, and then I'm some of it's manual as far as like the roster management, and then as far as like the grading goes, I have a model that I'm tweaking and constantly updating to make this as accurate as possible. I think one of the places where we're going with in the sports world is we have so much data and so much information, and it's like drinking through a fire hose. And I think we want to get to where how is this easily digestible for people to really take this in. And I think that's what's really resonating with people is you can digest this. It has what you want, but it's not too much. And it's like you said, it's easy to find, easy to understand what's going on. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to take all this data information and make it like really fun and interactive and easy to consume.
Well, it is all of those things. Where did the inspiration come from for this idea, this site? Are you a basketball fan? Take us through, when was the light bulb moment?
So I would gamble a lot and I was just very I think just like dopamine fatigued, and I would be gambling on I'd be watching Presbyterian and Radford on a Tuesday afternoon, and I was like, man, this is not.
There's got to be a better way.
Yeah, there's got to be a better way. So, I wanted, to find a different way to still engage with my team, and I went to Auburn, and I would obsess kind of over. I would read ESPN and CBS, and I'd watch them, and I have all these thoughts in my mind, like, what if Auburn wins out, or what if, this team loses? What would that look like on the standings and in the bracket? Or if we got this guy in the portal, what would our team be like? And so it's like, I gotta, I want to give people a better dopamine hit that's, a little more sustainable, and I wasn't enjoying the game as much. And then once I got away from that a little bit, I'm enjoying this a lot more. And so, yeah, that's.
So how much, like in terms of the portal, there's so much movement every day. And like I click on Kansas State. They had a guy commit at like 9 p.m. last night, and he's already added. He's projected to be their starter at the center position. How are you getting like these real-time updates when where I see it, where we see it, is on social media?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much social media.
Okay.
Same as you. I'm, today's my anniversary with my wife. She'll be mad. I'll be on here just like still getting updates.
Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary. Yeah. I've made the admin tool to where I can do it from anywhere and add people and, move them around fairly easily. So yeah, I mean, it is like you said, it's a different world where now, 40% of players are in the portal. Last year was 2,000 something, and there's only 5,300 players, so 40% both years. And the Big 12's in a very interesting position that kind of reminds me a lot of the SEC last year, where you have this large exit of talent. I mean, you have AJ Devonsa, you have Darren Peterson, Kingston Flemings, Badunga, Cameron Carr, Koa Pete, maybe, Braden Burries. So you have this large exodus of talent, and it reminds me of the SEC 2 years or coming into last offseason, and the Big 12 is heavily looking into the portal to replace that. So it's getting very interesting, especially for this conference.
Do you look at this website as being more data-driven in terms of like analytical data, or more data-driven in terms of just information and then the ability to sort of play GM?
I think both, but more so, there's a lot of great analytic sites like KenPom and Torvik and
Evan Mia.
Yeah, Evan Mia. We're not trying to replace them. I think they do a really great job of what they do. I think what they're missing is the next step, which is making it easier to digest, and that's where we come. That's
a great point.
Yeah,
and like at the top, you've got the top 25 portal, roster tracker, bracketology, ratings, TV guide. It's all right there for college basketball junkies like us. Where are you seeing the most traffic? Like what are the teams that the nation seems to be most intrigued by, and then who are the top dogs in the Big 12?
Yeah, so definitely Kentucky. Big Blue Nation is out in full force. Arizona is a big one especially for the Big 12. Seeing a lot of Iowa State, which and Kansas as well. Yeah, on the site in general. During the season, it was a lot of the bracketology, because the bracket would be updating every day based on standings and it would look at the net and resume, and so that would update in real time. And but in the off season, the portal has been definitely has been chaos for us as well.
Were you building your own bracketology or using like a composite?
Building my own, yeah, building my own.
And do you have access to the portal itself? Are you able to see these moves in real time?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's helpful.
Yeah. So what's next for Shooty Hoops? And do you like making money?
I do, but I'm willing to play the long game. I think, I want to make sure that the fans come first, and I've always said, like, I don't want to do any subscriptions or anything like that, so it'll have to be monetization through sponsors and that avenue. But what's next is, I don't want to give away too much, but I'm always building new things. I'm thinking a little more of, everybody wants to give their own opinion on social media, and that's very prevalent, and we really want to give that outlet. So we're thinking a little like Rotten Tomatoes. I won't give up too much with that, but that's kind of the inspiration for what's coming this off season is, and we're coming up with a lot of creative ways to do that.
Awesome. Lee McCormick, Shooty Hoops. We encourage anybody that's a Big 12 fan to go check out the website and see what it's all about because it is really intuitive, easy to follow, and like you said, kind of solving a problem of there's all these great metrics and analytics, but it's really hard to follow and it's not very digestible, especially for people that probably aren't deep into stats and the analytical side of things. So this is a great website, and I'm glad James found it. And way to go with Twitter ads. It actually worked.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys for having me.
Thanks, Lee.
Lee McCormick, Shooty Hoops, joining us here. I encourage everybody to go check it out. You can find, I think from a resource standpoint, it's probably that's where it's best would be used from, like, who are the newest players my team has added?
Right.
Who do they need to add? I'm looking at Kansas's roster right now, and they're going to probably need some more players to field the team.
They will need some more players, and that's what I like most about it.
Really, they only have 3 starters.
And there's 5 guys on the floor. Kansas does not have a single frontline player or front court player, I should say, on the roster.
Well, they're zigging.
They don't have a power forward.
Everybody else is all about big guys.
They don't have a center.
Kansas, Bill Self's like, please, we're going to go all guards all the time.
And I love that you can click on a team, and right there on their homepage, there's a projected depth chart. Point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, center. And again, it's updating in real time. So like today I learned that Baylor just landed a high-profile transfer, the number 4 rated shooting guard in the portal in Brett Decker Jr., who was an 18-point-per-game guy at Liberty last year. And then his backup is expected to be a highly touted incoming freshman, Elijah Williams. You could do this for any team. Arizona just added 2 transfers last night, and they're already slotted where Shooty Hoops projects them to be. Derek Dixon, the transfer from North Carolina, is expected to be Arizona's point guard next year. He's right there, point guard PG1. Shooting guard expected to be the 5-star freshman, top 3 player in the country, Caleb Holt. Karchinkov at small forward. And then they remove guys that have either declared for the NBA draft or are leaning towards the NBA draft. It's just a really cool, really unique, very interactive, easy to digest website.
That's James Westling. I am Ari Tepkin. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo. On the way next, from Saturdays to Sundays, we do a deep dive into the prospects heading to the draft from West Virginia and UCF. Spoiler alert, UCF's got a lot. West Virginia's got 1. Plus, we reflect upon last year's picks from those schools, including maybe the best Big 12 player in the NFL that was a rookie last year. That's next. With James, I'm Ari. It's Big 12 Today, presented by Modelo. Heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios.
And you still have one-on-ones across the field, and you've got number 88 to the bottom of your screen against a shorter defender.
Hoover again. Crossing pattern, end zone, caught, touchdown. It's a moot point now. It's Rogers, the tight end.
About 4 hours from campus in Fort Worth. 5 wide here, and all sorts of time for Hoover with a dime down the middle of the field. DJ Rogers, the tight end, sets up first and goal for TCU.
The Red Raiders might say, if you could just get a redo on that one. Big play to DJ Rogers, the tight end, rumbling. DJ Rogers all the way down to the 25-yard line. Big gain there for this TCU offense.
Hoover 6 of 7 in this opening drive. He'll keep it. Just tosses it to DJ Rogers, and TCU on the board first. Snap back. That's always a good job by a defender.
Hoover, he does it again. No problem. DJ Rogers has it inside the 10, all the way down to the 8.
Hoover pulls it to the tight end, DJ Rogers. His second touchdown of the season.
The backfield as it was Barnes by himself for a moment. Swings it out. Rogers breaks the tackle, stays on his feet, is decked out of bounds at the 30.
Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio, along with James Westling. I'm Ari Temkin. We are presented by Modelo, and we're continuing our From Saturdays to Sundays series, the Big 12 and the NFL Draft, powered by Modelo. And cheers to all you full-time fans. We are a week plus away from the 2026 NFL Draft. The first round is 9 days away, next Thursday. Second and third rounds, 10 days away. The rest of the draft, 11 days away. And so we're spending some time on shows this week and lead up to the draft next week, taking a look at each school and each position in the Big 12. Today, from Saturdays to Sundays, takes us to West Virginia and UCF, where we're breaking down draft prospects for the 2026 draft from West Virginia and UCF. And what stands out to you, James?
I mean, for UCF, this is really, and I know we're only 2 days into this series, but the first really meaty prospect, a guy that could be drafted in the second round. I don't think slides into the first round, but doesn't get out of round 2 or round 3, and that's Malachi Lawrence, the edge rusher from UCF, 6'4", 260 pounds, set new career highs in tackles and TFLs this past season. He had 11 tackles for loss. He had 7 sacks. He was first-team All-Big 12, and really the only UCF defender at that level of production. And UCF's defense kept them in a lot of games. But remember, he just balled out at the NFL Combine. He had ridiculous numbers and maybe shouldn't have been a total surprise based off of his on-field production, but he finished in the 98th percentile in the 40, 98th percentile in the vertical, and the 99th percentile in the broad jump, and he measured with 35-inch arms, which were the best measurements in the entire edge rushing draft class. So he's a guy that I'm a little surprised he hasn't been more in the discussion as a first-round pick. CBS has him at pick 58. Daniel Jeremiah ranked him at number 46 on his NFL big board, but he is the first, like, this is a dude prospect that we've stumbled across.
What's really interesting about the draft, James, is like the edge rushing class in particular. So at the top of the draft, you've got Reuben Bain and David Bailey, and depending on how you feel about Arvell Reese, right? Like, so there's a few guys at the top of the draft, but there's depth at the edge rushing position, but the problem is like slotting all of these guys in different places. Like, for instance, so I do a weekly draft show specific to the Bears for Second City Gridiron, and like, so trying to figure out who the Bears are going to draft at 25 is really difficult because like there's so many guys in that conversation, and it's like some of these guys we're talking about 25 could also be available to the Bears at 57 or 60 when they're drafting again in the second round. And I think Malachi Lawrence is the perfect example of that. Like, here's a guy that could go in the first round. He could go in the second round. And, like, the drop-off between those guys is so insignificant. You know, I think we're used to seeing drafts where it's pretty well slotted where each of those edge rushers will go. And with this draft, it's bizarro world. Like, you know who the top of the draft is? Like, I think the top 10 picks are pretty well established. But you go after that, and I think there's going to be some huge surprises. So, like, I wouldn't be shocked if we came back a week from Friday and we're talking about Malachi Lawrence as a first-round pick, especially because you've got a high level of production. I mean, 20 sacks in his career at UCF, a 22.7% pressure rate, which, I mean, that's as good as anybody in this draft class. Plus, you marry that with what he did at the Combine. Like, this is one, and I think this is going to be a draft where a lot of the draft analysts are off because, and that's not to say anything about them, it's more to say about this draft is off in terms of who we know at the top versus how everything else falls in line after that.
Yeah, that's very well said. And I thought Lawrence was productive enough as a player on the field.
Right,
And then you
right.
pair that with his Combine.
Right, a 22.7% pressure rate?
And it's like, how is this guy not a first-round pick? The edge rusher position is very deep this year, where it's thin at running back, which we touched on off the top. It's very deep at this position. So NFLDraftBuzz.com, their composite ranking of Malachi Lawrence, they have him like 13th. Now, that's composite. That's taking ESPN into account, which has him really low. CBS, among others, their draft profile, they have him as the number 9 edge rusher. So even the 9th rated edge rusher being a second-round pick tells you how deep that position is. But also, he's still kind of learning the position. Like, he was a late bloomer, and a lot of times these late bloomers are the guys that go on to be stars in the NFL because they're relatively new to the position, and they haven't been hearing how they're going to be the next Myles Garrett since they were in the 6th grade. He played tight end and outside linebacker in high school because he was too small. He was a 3-star recruit. He also did shot put in high school. And then he battled some injuries like his freshman year. He was a developmental player. 2023 is where he started to get on the field. He started all 13 games as a redshirt sophomore, and the rest is history. Worked his way up to 2-time All-Big 12 and All-Big 12 first team this past season. So a guy that's done it on the field, has these measurables, is still relatively new to the position. Whoever drafts him, I'd be ecstatic if I'm a fan of that franchise.
Yeah, and it's really interesting, too, because he grades out as a pass-rushing specialist, but I think, to your point, is a guy that can develop the ability to be a run stuffer.
Yeah, he's 260 pounds.
Right. So, he isn't good yet at setting the edge, and he isn't good yet at being a dual threat in terms of sacks and being good against pressure, but or against the run. But ultimately, I think this is a guy that could develop that. Like, there's some guys where it's like Romello Height is going to be a pass-rushing specialist. Like, he's probably not going to develop the ability to be, great against the run. Mm-hmm. And look, there are a lot of guys that would probably be like that are not 3-down edge rushers. But some of these guys can develop that. And I think that's where you find edge rushers that become really successful in the NFL that were 2nd or 3rd round picks.
And it's interesting you bring up Romello Height because he's rated, I said Lawrence is number 9. He's number 10, according to this NFL Draft Buzz service. And the biggest weakness for Lawrence is his run defense. It's a real concern. But to your point, with him being so new to the position, that's an area that I think he could grow in. And you also have a lot of flexibility with him. The fact that he played tight end and linebacker in high school, you could trim some weight to make him even quicker and make him a pass rushing specialist, or you can add some weight and make him more of an anchor on that defensive line. So he's a guy that we'll definitely have an eye on, I think, day 2 in the draft.
Nigel Lee Kelly is the other name to talk about, a guy that didn't have the best 40 time at the combine, but he has the longest arms of any edge rusher in the 2026 combine and a forced fumble machine. He had 5 forced fumbles in 2 seasons. The biggest thing is the sack production really took a nosedive. He went from 5.5 in 24 to 3 in 2025. And I do think, too, the 40 time, which is one of the worst of edge rushers, will ding him. I've seen some having him go, 5th, 6th. Some could have him undrafted. But to me, the 40 time is telling because obviously teams are looking for that explosive first step. They want big time athletes, and I'm just not sure he has it. Now he does have the bend and he does have the arm length to put his hand in footballs and create opportunities for fumbles, which he did at UCF.
Yeah, he was on the field a ton, 23 starts in his last 2 years, but a 4.88 40 is what he ran, to your point. So the athleticism doesn't quite match his frame. He's probably day 3 or undrafted free agent. Priority, Pro Football Focus ranked him as the 415th overall prospect, which 60 some guys get drafted. So he's probably undrafted, but he was a high-profile recruit out of high school. He was a 4-star kid, started his career at Miami. So he has something, and remember, a lot of these high school rankings are based off of kind of your NFL profile. He has that. He's 6'5", 265 pounds, but the 40 is a major concern that teams are kind of shying away from at this point.
From West Virginia's perspective, Jamori Robinson is probably the one potential pick, and I mean, he could be, based on what he did at UTSA and his size and abilities, he could be a 2nd or 3rd round pick. I see him probably more day 3, 3rd, or 4th or 5th, but could potentially be a day 2 guy at the 2nd or 3rd rounds. 15 sacks at UTSA, 10.5 sacks in 2024, 30 tackles for loss in his career. The biggest thing with him is the same thing that another former Big 12 guy has, which is Akeem Mesidor, which is he's old. Jamori Robinson is 26 years old.
Yeah.
So for teams that want prospects that are going to get to a second contract, Jamori Robinson makes no sense. Now, for a team like the Bears, who need experienced edge rushers because they need to infuse some talent there. Jamori Robinson's almost the perfect pick, a guy that's ready-made for the NFL. I think age sometimes can be used both ways. For some teams, it's a huge disadvantage. For other teams, they might look at it and be like, I don't care about him getting to a second contract. I need production today and tomorrow and the next year.
And he was violent when he was at UTSA. I mean, he was the hardest hitting edge rusher in the American Conference. And I feel like we got robbed of just how good he could have been at West Virginia because we never got that full sample size. So he'll be a steal for somebody in free agency. The other guy from West Virginia is another linebacker, Reed Carrico, who might get drafted, but probably on the outside looking in. He had 70 tackles, he had 8 TFLs, he had 5 sacks, probably had his best game in a 49-0 loss to Texas Tech. Like, he was still playing really hard until the final whistle, and he was a 4-star out of high school who signed with Ohio State and then transferred to West Virginia. So he's maybe got a chance, but it's pretty thin for those two schools compared to what they had last year. Like last year, both teams had a lot of guys get drafted. R.J. Harvey was obviously the headline for UCF. West Virginia had guys get drafted with Wyatt Milam, the offensive lineman who went in the 3rd round to the Jacksonville Jaguars and was a really good player at West Virginia. Kind of battled some injuries this year, but played in 10 games in the NFL. So this year, very different for West Virginia and UCF, and I think that's a byproduct of they had first-year head coaches, they had brand-new rosters, and so next year I think they'll have a different profile.
Yeah, Wyatt Milam, 3rd round, 79 or 89th overall pick, had a PFF overall grade at 77.5. He actually had a knee injury that he suffered at the second preseason game, missed the first 5 weeks of the season. Did come back and appeared in 10 games, 3 of those on offense. The majority of the time he spent on the field was on special teams, which is good for him. But when he did see the field on offense, a 77.5 PFF grade is pretty good, with just 1 pressure allowed across 31 pass blocking snaps. So, I mean, I'd say that's a pretty good foundation for a guy that had kind of a rough start to his career, and for a guy that I expected pretty good things from, a guy that I think eventually becomes a starter, high-level interior starter along an NFL offensive line.
Yeah, Jacksonville got a steal with him in the 3rd round, pick 89, and this is why, like, another example of why the NFL draft is such a crapshoot and unpredictable. Wyatt Milam going into this series last year, we thought he was a lock
for a first-round pick. Yeah.
Versatile, could play multiple positions, big, great feet, and he slides all the way to the 3rd round. Mac McWilliams is another guy that was drafted from these two schools. He was drafted out of UCF. The cornerback got taken by the Eagles in the 5th round, got pushed pretty hard in training camp. He dressed in 4 of the first 9 games but saw limited action. And I know we'll talk about R.J. Harvey in our next series, talking about running backs, but he was really like the guy when it comes to these two teams and who got drafted last year. But, yeah, Milam, man, I remember watching the draft thinking, Milam, 3rd round? Like, that's a plug-and-play starter. And to your point, I think when he's healthy, he's definitely that.
Well, and especially when you consider that he was a tackle and he moved inside, so there is some grace period there in terms of learning. As opposed to being on an island, now you're working cohesion with a unit of the interior of that line. So I think there's a transitional phase that's needed there. All right, let's talk R.J. Harvey. You just saved him for our next segment, which is from Saturdays to Sundays, Big 12 the NFL Draft, position running back. Each day this week, we're taking a deep dive into the draft prospects from each school and positions. Running back is next, and it's a really interesting storyline to track because 2025 was ripe with Big 12 prospects at running back. 2027 should be too, but 2026, not so much. We'll get into that next and what it means. With James, I'm Ari. It's Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios.
Corner for Wyoming. And Sam Levitt on the move, completes the pass. There's Mateer, the tight end, and into the end zone for an ASU touchdown. Javon Mateer.
Levitt rolling out, throwing to the end zone. Touchdown, Mateer. go until halftime. Levin will throw short to the tight end. There he goes. Touchdown, Sun Devils. Mateer, 16 yards, and it's 20-0. Levin steps out of the tackle. He'll throw it again. That's a touchdown. It's Mateer back in the game. Already run 52 plays. Rudo gets his chance. They fake it to him. Set up the tight end screen. Shimon Mateer to the outside for a touchdown. 3rd and 8. The adjustment is made. Mateer, flag down, catch is made, touchdown, Shimon Mateer. 5-minute mark, 8th play of the drive. This one down the seam for a touchdown. Shimon Mateer with an 18-yard score.
Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo. And we're getting you ready for the NFL Draft, Big 12 style, with our From Saturdays to Sundays series, the Big 12 and the NFL Draft. We're taking a look at teams and positions. Last segment, we took a look at West Virginia and UCF, and now we're taking a look at the running back position in terms of the NFL Draft for 2026. And do we have crickets?
Enter sound effect here.
Yes.
Because last year was a monster year for the Big 12 at the running back position. You had about half of the overall running backs that were taken in the NFL Draft from this conference. This year, there were still really good rushers in this league. Bryson Washington, Brown at Arizona State, among others in this conference. L.J. Martin at BYU, but with L.J. Martin deciding to come back and play one more year at BYU, it's left the pool pretty thin. It's maybe Tawee Walker from Cincinnati getting a look in the NFL, but it's pretty dry this year. And the running back position overall, I noted this earlier, that after Jeremiah Love, there's a massive drop-off. Like, the next highest-rated guy is 60th, and it was Jeremiah Love's sidecar at Notre Dame this season. So the running backs, there's no more guys getting drafted in the top 5, for the most part even the top 10, unless you're Ashton Genty. So if there's a position to have a down year in, if you want to call it that, running back's probably the best position for that to be the case, because just not that many guys are going to be taken collectively in the NFL.
Right. Well, I mean, exactly. So it's a double-edged sword of the combination of it's a devalued position in terms of the draft, and then, last year was really good. And I think there's a chance for next year to also be very, very, very good in the Big 12. I mean, last year we talked about 2024 was the year of the quarterback, rather the running back. 2025 was the year of the quarterback. 2026, I'm not sure which one it will be. Mm-hmm. Maybe the year of the running back. But there's some big-time backs that are, L.J. Martin jumps off the page, right, at BYU. Number 1 back heading into the season. But, like, Cam Dickey, I think Wayshawn Parker at Utah has a chance to be really, really good in this new offense. I think Colorado's running backs could be very, very good for the first time ever with Deion at Colorado because of the Brennan Marion offense. You got a chance for Dylan Edwards at Kansas, maybe. Caleb Hawkins at Oklahoma State could become an NFL draft pick this year.
Definitely. Hawkins for sure. Although he's only a true sophomore, so he would have to come back to school one more year. But he has potential to be a first or second round pick eventually. Even Quentin Joyner at Texas Tech, if he's healthy this year. West Virginia and Cam Cook, the running back transfer from Jacksonville State that led the nation in rushing yards. So the fact that there's only one really Big 12 prospect at the running back position tells me that the league's going to be really good at that position because these guys are all still in college. So it's going to be a deep running back class for the Big 12 this year. Even with the departures of Evan Pryor at Cincinnati, Tawee Walker's the only prospect on the board from Cincinnati, the departure of Bryson Washington at Baylor. They're going to have a two-headed monster in Caleb Knighton and Michael Turner in the backfield. Houston brings in Mekhi Hughes from Oregon. He's a guy that I think 2 years ago NFL draft scouts would say he would be a guy that would get drafted. Then he got buried on the Oregon depth chart. He'll have a reemergence this year. So the league, like big picture at running back, could revert back. I don't know that we'll ever have a year like we had this past year, though, where you had like half of the overall running backs from the Big 12. There were so many of them.
Right. So, there were 6 drafted in 2025. R.J. Harvey, Cam Scadaboo, Taj Brooks, DJ Giddens, Devin Neal, and Ollie Gordon. I think Cam Scadaboo was on his way to having the best season of any of them. Then he got hurt. R.J. Harvey did have the best season out of any of them, and it's so interesting because he had 12 total touchdowns last year. He was a fantasy football machine for the Denver Broncos, but only had 540 rushing yards. 12 touchdowns is an insane number.
Yeah.
He also was on the field a ton, 42% offensive snap share. Mm-hmm. And Week 8 NFL Rookie of the Week, where he had 3 touchdowns, including a 40-yard run against the Dallas Cowboys.
The Cowboys. Didn't know if you were going to take a shot at my Chiefs or the Cowboys.
No, yeah, the Cowboys, you or I could have rushed for 3 touchdowns against them last year.
But he had the best rookie season of the group. And watching him at UCF, that wasn't surprising to me. I knew that the Broncos in that system had a steal at number 60 overall. He was a second-round pick. You mentioned that he had all these touchdowns with about 500 yards rushing, but he had almost 1,000 yards from scrimmage because he was very active in the passing game. He caught 47 passes on 57 targets. He had 400 yards and 5 receiving touchdowns, and he's going to be one of the top running backs off the board in all these fantasy football drafts come later on this summer. Former high school quarterback, used that kind of quarterback vision to read defenses at running back like he did at UCF, like he did this past season in Sean Payton's system. And that's why Denver drafted him. It wasn't his size. It wasn't his 40 time. Sean Payton said he's got the best vision of any running back in the draft. And he wasn't even listed as the starter to open the year. He was expected to be the backup to J.K. Dobbins, and now I don't think there's any question in terms of him being the number one guy for a Denver team that really leans on their ground game.
I think you're forgetting how much Sean Payton hates fantasy football. Payton's going to always have a really weird backfield with all different guys at different spots, and he's going to use 3 or 4 running backs. I mean, the fact that R.J. Harvey had 12 total touchdowns and only saw the field at 42% of offensive snaps says a lot. Like, that is an insane efficiency and speaks to how much Sean Payton hates fantasy football.
It also speaks to just how good he could be
longevity-wise
in the NFL. I love the fact that, they used him as kind of a change of pace back, and that's going to do really good things for the wear and tear on his body, whereas Cam Scadaboo, by the time he got the job in New York, he was on the field every snap.
Yeah.
Right? And we saw him just a brutal injury to his season, but before that injury, I think you could argue that Cam Scadaboo was the biggest story. Maybe people were obsessed with Cam Scadaboo and still are. I mean, he was pacing to be the rookie of the year. He had 400 yards in 8 games. He had 5 rushing touchdowns. He was third among all running backs, not just rookies, all running backs the first 8 weeks of the season with his Pro Football Focus grade. And he was just an absolute beast.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I'm excited to see what his next season looks like. In terms of the 2026 Big 12 running back situation, we talked a little bit about it. At the top, you've got L.J. Martin and Cam Dickey. But very intriguing, smaller school guys, Caleb Hawkins, Cam Cook, the Jacksonville State running back. So you've got guys basically rejoining teams from coaches they're familiar with. Hawkins, obviously the North Texas transfer, comes in with an FBS record, 29 touchdowns as a freshman and 1,400 yards. So, yeah, he would not be eligible for the draft in 2027. Good point by you. Cam Cook transferred in from Jacksonville State to West Virginia in 2025. He ran for 1,600 yards, 16 touchdowns. So not bad. Guy that certainly could be on the radar for NFL teams in 2026. Wayshawn Parker, 981 yards, 6 rushing touchdowns, plus 3 receiving touchdowns. I think he'll have an even better year this year. Mekhi Hughes, you mentioned him, the former Tulane player that transferred in from Oregon. Dawson Pendergrass. Remember, Dawson Pendergrass was lost during fall camp a year ago.
Totally forgot about him.
In a very busy backfield with Baylor, he could emerge. Dylan Edwards has had all kinds of potential as he's now at Kansas. Cameron Petaway transfers from Bowling Green. So there's some interesting names here.
Very much so. Like the Big 12, I think, is going to be very strong at the running back position, which bodes well in this kind of shift from these air raid offenses to more ground and pound. And I think it's going to be imperative that teams have not just one really capable running back, but multiple guys. I mean, Cam Cook at West Virginia, the transfer from Jacksonville State, who was at TCU before that, was a really highly touted prospect out of high school, as was Dylan Edwards, I should say, who was recruited by Notre Dame, commits there, then he goes to Colorado, and then Kansas State, and now Kansas trying to find the right fit. L.J. Martin, I'll be shocked if he's not the first running back off the board next year. The Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year, 1,300 yards rushing, almost 6 yards per carry, 12 touchdowns, had a 222-yard game against Cincinnati. He's 6'2", 220 pounds. He's massive. He led the nation in yards after contact. And all that's great. And in the NFL, though, what does he run at the combine? What does his 40 time look like? Is he a guy that is a first or second day NFL draft pick next year. I think ultimately he's going to come down to the combine because, like, what else could he do in terms of his production on the field? It checks all the boxes there.
Do you think the 2026 running back situation in the Big 12 will be better than 2024?
2024?
Yeah. Where we're talking about Taj Brooks,
Okay,
and Scadaboo. I guess that'd be 2025. No, 24.
I lean no.
25 draft.
Yeah, I lean no only because that was such a
I mean, you had Devin Neal, all-time leading rusher at Kansas. Cam Scadaboo, who helped lead Arizona State to the playoffs.
You had the reigning Doak Walker Award winner in Ollie Gordon at Oklahoma State, who was like the 5th best running back in the Big 12 that year.
Taj Brooks, I think, is the all-time leading rusher at Texas Tech.
Yeah, I mean, that was a historic year. Taj Brooks, who looked really good in the NFL preseason. I'm not sure how many snaps he was on the field in his rookie year in Cincinnati. But then even DJ Giddens from Kansas State, I still think is one of the best running backs in K-State school history. You just had, and then R.J. Harvey, who we just touched on. You had such a deep, talented running back class in the Big 12. I don't know that we'll ever see that.
Yeah. Taj Brooks, not a great year. Didn't see the field a ton. Devin Neal, though, he had 3 starts as a rookie, played 10 games, 3 starts. He did have a season-ending hamstring injury in Week 15, but he had 206 rushing yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, 17 receptions for 104, and 152 yards on 7 kickoff returns.
Yeah,
so,
he had a pretty good year
yeah.
in the games that he was on the field. DJ Giddens only averaged 4 yards per carry. I mean, he's Jonathan Taylor's backup, so you're barely going to get off the bench.
And Amir Abdullah, they've got a very busy backfield at Indianapolis for sure.
And he had it's weird that he had his best game Week 1. He had 12 carries for 44 yards against Miami, and then the rest of the year he only had 18 more carries the entire season. And then, I think we touched on Ollie Gordon yesterday. I was trying to think if there was anybody we missed in terms of guys that got drafted last year. I would say, like, collectively to have, let's see, R.J. Harvey's a starter, Cam Scadaboo's a starter, everybody else are backups.
Devin Neal has the potential to be a starter. He was for 3 games this season.
And the guy that's in front of him is like 50 years old now in Alvin Kamara. So, like, you could have 3 starters this year in the NFL from the Big 12 in this most recent 2025 class.
Yeah, and I'm really excited to see what the 2026 Big 12 running backs look like. Like, there's a ton of potential here. I think at the top of it, if history is an indication, L.J. Martin's not going to lead the Big 12 in rushing, and we'll have a bad season this year, which, apologies to BYU, but we've seen that kind of in recent history. Hopefully that doesn't happen. But I also think, like, we talked Cam Dickey, but we haven't even talked about the 3-headed monster at Texas Tech. Quentin Joyner, who was supposed to be the main guy this past year. Jacoby Williams.
Who's their fastest guy.
Right. Where Dickey was leading rusher from last year, but I could see him being 3rd on the team this year, potentially, just depending on how it shakes out.
So I'm going to guess we probably agree that if we were putting together a preseason all Big 12 running back team, L.J. Martin would be 1 and Cam Dickey would be 2 at Texas Tech. But who would be 3?
Is it Caleb Hawkins?
That's the first name I thought of. The nation's 2nd leading rusher. Oh, by the way, the nation's leading rusher last season was Cam Cook, who's also going to be in the Big 12.
1,659 yards and 16 touchdowns. 6 yards a carry, 5.6. Not too shabby.
Nope. And one other guy that used to play in the Big 12 that's probably going to get drafted is C.J. Donaldson, who is at Ohio State this past year.
Good point.
Really good at West Virginia. So there is a little bit of Big 12 flavor, but like I said, there's just not a lot of running backs that are going to get selected in this draft.
Well, I also wonder, so Richard Young is kind of an interesting name to look for, a guy that was a former 4-star, transferred to Colorado from Alabama. Like Colorado, I've never been more confident they'll be able to run the football effectively this year because of this go-go offense. And so you wonder who the beneficiary of that will be. I think if we're looking for like a breakout star in the Big 12, it's a Colorado running back. All right, more to come, including Zack Moss, the former Utah Ute running back, joins us next, talking through the position and what advice he might give to running backs as they head into the NFL draft. This is Big 12 Today with James Westling. I'm Ari Tepkin. We are presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios.
Robertson spins one, 4th down, got it! Senior to senior. Robertson spins one, 4th down, got it! Rush up the middle, Robertson spins one, 4th down, got it! From the play fake. One-on-one coverage. Jump ball. Flag is out. Hits hauled in. Josh Cameron.
This is what we talked about earlier in impact players. He's our guy that they throw the fade to. You see it right here?
UCF earns a number 4 seed, followed by Arizona State. With the 5 seed, as Utah rounds out the last. The men's first round begins Thursday, April 16th at 10 a.m. with number 3 seed Baylor taking on number 6 seed Utah, number 4 seed UCF against number 5 seed Arizona State. Live results and streaming on ESPN Plus will be available for everyone. For more information, visit Big12Sports.com. Stay tuned for more Big 12 Today, presented by Modelo with Ari and James, bringing you the best of what's happening in the Big 12. With your Big 12 Sports Update, I'm Taylor Clark.
Stay connected with your Big 12 Sports Update. This is the Big 12. This is a different league.
I'm Devin Dampier, and I play quarterback at the University of Utah. You're listening to Big 12 Radio exclusively on TuneIn.
Big 12 Today with Ari and James. Your home for interviews, analysis, and all things Big 12. This is Big 12 Radio on TuneIn.
It's Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios in our series from Saturdays to Sundays, Big 12 in the NFL Draft. Let's talk about the running back position with the former Utah Ute running back, Zack Moss. Of course, never played in the Big 12, but now a representative of Utah, a Big 12 member. Zach, how are you?
Doing great. How are you guys doing today?
Doing very well, thank you. Appreciate your time and for you jumping on with us. So before we get started, I want to talk with you about the running back position and the draft, etc. What are you doing these days?
Not too much right now. Just continuing to getting healthy and staying in shape and things of that nature. But and just enjoying my family time.
Nice, that's awesome. And where are you located?
I'm still in Utah.
Nice, that's awesome. Okay, so I guess take me back to when you were preparing for the draft at this point, a couple of years ago. what was the process like? What did you been hearing? How did the draft? How did the whole experience go? Just kind of give us a sense here of your memories and thoughts as you were experiencing it.
Yeah, my process was pretty cool. Up until COVID hit. So for our draft class and getting the experience, was during COVID. So you didn't get the chance to be around family fully. Obviously, we didn't have a pro day either at Utah, so I didn't get to see a lot of the guys that I played with, and a lot of those guys didn't get opportunities as well. So it was kind of like it was cool, but it was kind of like in a lonely space as well, because I was just out in California by myself doing the whole process and getting ready. So it was more of a mental game that you had to kind of stay ready for, just day in and day out. And it was weird, but it was still a blessing at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think that's a huge part of it. And, you've played in 61 NFL games and have rushed for 2,300 yards. What would you tell some of these incoming rookies in terms of what to be prepared for in the NFL? What's different from college in terms of the speed on the field, the size, the systems, everything like that?
Well, definitely, I think the biggest thing that jumps out is the size and the speed. Those mistakes that you could make in college and still get 4 or 5 yards out of, those aren't really going to be realistic and consistently happening for you. So, those turn into, tackles of loss real fast or just a 2-yard gain. And, everything about the NFL is efficient. Coaches want to have efficient run game more than anything. And, false steps, missing a read, all these different things, the way you were the guy in college, and those things you can kind of happen once or twice in a game. In NFL, everything has a very, very high level of execution, and they want it to be, pretty much perfect. So, pretty much just go in and, have that mindset of try to make sure you can limit as many mistakes as you possibly can each and every day. And outside of that, just be yourself and play your game, but try to figure out a way to play your game within the system that is, being taught to you, because for a running back, especially, the system matters, right? You can't just put any running back in any system and it just works for them, right? So it's different. It's a business. First and foremost, at the end of the day, it is a business, and you got to learn that. And try to get around vets that have been in the league for a while and know how to, correlate with the business side of football that you aren't going to know, even though you might have had, little experience with NIL and stuff like that. It's still really no comparison between the two. But just try to get around vets and people that you can trust and just go from there.
Yeah. Go ahead.
When you say mistakes in college where you can still get 4 or 5 yards turn into TFLs in the NFL, what mistakes are you talking about?
Just a false step, right? Like using the wrong foot or jump, not jump cutting when you should have jump cut, or, diving outside of a hole and then trying to get back into that hole when you missed it the first time because you didn't trust it. Just little small stuff, like wherever they want you to put the ball, 9 times out of 10, that's where the ball needs to go, because these plays, these coaches are so meticulous and they design these plays directly for this ball to hit on this hash mark, on this line of scrimmage, something like that. So it's it's hard for me to explain it by words, but it's man, if you bounce outside and you try to get back in, we might put that on your highlight tape in college because you're playing against guys who aren't as good of athletes as these guys in the NFL. But when you go up against, I played against Myles Garrett, TJ Watt twice a year, you can't do that. And those guys, you're in the outside zone, and some guys in college may take that play off and be running away from them. You have these type of dudes who are running down these plays each and every play and never get tired. And it's not just those guys, it's the other guys around them as well that feed off of those type of players. And a lot of these players that feed off of Myles Garrett or TJ Watt, these guys who are in their own space, also were All-Americans at some point themselves.
Great point.
Right? I think, which is what people forget. Is all right, he's not having the craziest NFL career, But if you really go back and you really pay attention and look at these guys, the NFL, NBA, any sport is you got to have roles. You got to be out, figure a way out to be the best player you can be in your said role. But a lot of these guys used to be the guys, right? And
right.
They can still turn it on and turn it off depending on what their role is asked of them to do. That's why you can look around the league and you can see certain guys like, oh, look at this guy had a 100-yard plus game, or this guy had a 150-yard game, and then do it for another 3-4 weeks. That's just not what he's being asked to do. But when you put a guy in that position to go and do it, these guys have done it. The thing that makes the ones that can do it over and over again great, obviously, is consistency.
Yeah, it's a great point. First three-time 1,000-yard rusher in the history of Utah football with 4,000 career rushing yards and 38 touchdowns. Played high school football with Tyler Huntley. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
I mean, that's got to be a dominant. I know the Miami area has just ridiculous high school football. It had to be a dominant high school football team.
Yeah, we were really good, man. We played together for 1 year. We had probably like 6 or 7 players that went Division I just off of offense alone. So we had a lot of good talent, and like you said, just that South Florida, Miami area for sure. I mean, it's just ridiculous. The talent probably right now is even better than what we've ever had before.
Wow. Was he the reason you went to Utah?
Pretty much, yeah. I was committed to the University of Miami at first for about a year. I've had family that went there and stuff like that as well. And then he enrolled to Utah early and was telling me about it. And, one of my big things was I wanted to play early. They had a role where I could play early. So it all just lined up perfectly.
Yeah, Santana Moss is a cousin, right?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, so if some family members that have played there have been pretty good too, yeah. Not bad.
A lot of speed in that family.
Yeah.
So you were the Pac-12 Offensive Player of the Year back in 2019. Want to kind of piggyback off of your Utah career. That 2019 team was really kind of a breakthrough year for Utah football. Yeah. You guys won 11 games. What are some of your fondest memories from your time there?
Yeah, that 2019 team was really good, man. That class, we were a 2016 class, so all those guys who was contributing to that 2019 team, to that 11-win season, all was from that class. Like, that's a real brotherhood that we have. Real family and things like that, where we all can still talk to each other right now, connect, and it's like normal. And that would have never happened if a lot of us guys didn't decide to come back for our senior year, which obviously a lot of people don't remember. But we had guys like Julian Blackman, Lecky Fotu, Bradley, and I. Jalen Johnson was another guy as well. Obviously Tyler Huntley and a bunch of other guys as well that from that 2016 class that decided, hey, let's run it back. Let's go back and go see what we can do. And that's what, in my mind, kind of, was able for us to, have the season we did, obviously, and then we birthed, a lot of the guys that came after us, like Cam Rising and, all these other dudes that was able to go off and go win the Pac-12 championship game because they had watched us for 2 years. Be in those championship games, not be able to get over the hump, and then they go out and they get a chance to, win the next 2. But that's just from, being able to watch and get the experience from the guys that before them. And who knows if we go get 2 more Pac-12 championship games, and then if that 2019 team doesn't come back to play with each other.
Zack Moss, who in 2023 had 183 carries for 794 yards and 4 touchdowns, an average of 4.3 per carry for the Colts. Then in 2024 with the Bengals, suffered a really big, devastating injury, a vertebrae injury. And we started this conversation asking, what you were up to. And so, you have not played since the vertebrae injury. How scary was that to go through? And what are you looking at in terms of an NFL future?
Yeah, it was scary for sure. That was rough. I broke my neck in 3 different places in my first week of the regular season.
Wow.
With Cincinnati, but I didn't get ruled out until week 10.
Okay, how does that? I read about how does that happen?
I guess I got a strong neck. I could have been a boxer in a different life. I don't know. But yeah, I didn't know it was broken for 9 weeks. 2 months of football, NFL football, with my play style, and then being asked what I was being asked to do, right, which was a lot of pass protection stuff as well.
NFL players are crazy. Like, that is insane. If I broke my neck in 3 places, I wouldn't get out of bed for a week. He's playing NFL games. That's insane.
2 months like that, and then I started losing feeling in my hand and my arm and stuff like that. I played 2 games pretty much not being able to feel 2 of my fingers on my right side.
Wow.
And, I was like, no, this probably isn't normal. So then I went to them and I told them, obviously I went to them before that and I was getting treatment each and every day, every week, but we never got, scans or anything like that. Like, no, I guess no one thought it was that bad, even myself, until I started losing feeling, and then we got the scans and all that type of stuff, and then it kind of showed us what I was dealing with. But still to this day, right now, still kind of still dealing with it a little bit, right? Just like, stiffness, tightness, all that type of stuff, joint pain, whatever it may be. So NFL, who knows right now? I'm just more so focused on, being healthy. One, that's the main thing. I didn't have any crazy lingering thing that could have came from this, right? Being paralyzed or even worse after playing with this thing for 2 months. It was a lot of different stuff going on with the neck that I had absolutely no idea, right? Could have had a stroke at any moment because I had one of the bones was pressing down on one of my by the blood vessel. So it's like when you really stop, take a minute, reassess everything, you're like, I'm not really in no big rush to get back to something that I've given my life to for, since I was 10 years old, and I've done it nonstop for, 17, 18 years. So I'm like, you know what? I think it's time to just a little bit slow down, focus on myself. If it was, if it wasn't my neck, obviously I think differently, right? But it's my neck. I got 2 kids. I got a wife that would mean way more than football.
Yeah.
Any yardage, touchdown could ever mean. So that's the main thing right now.
That's well said. Former Utah running back Zack Moss spent about 3 years in Buffalo with the Bills and then a little over 2 years in Indianapolis with the Colts. And you had almost like dead even equal production. You were very productive in both stops. Which of those 2 franchises did you enjoy more and was the better fit for you?
The better fit for myself was definitely Indianapolis. Yeah. For a running back, when you play with a guy like a Josh Allen, and Josh is just a unicorn, like he really is, like he can do everything, right? And when you play with a guy like that and he's able to run the ball, he's literally going to go down as the greatest rushing touchdown quarterback of all time, right? Like that's going to happen. That and analytics start throwing into stuff like that as well. That takes away from what you can do a little bit, especially at the time from, who was calling the plays, right? Like obviously now, like the way the offenses ran now is a lot more balanced. But when I was there, we were, crazy Josh heavy on his legs, his arm. Just he had to be Superman all the time. And right now, he doesn't truly have to be that, all the time, just because of the offensive coordinator and stuff like that. But I loved being there just because we had a winning culture. Right, I literally was able to walk into a winning culture, see what it took to win in the NFL, go to the playoffs every year. We won our division 3 straight years in a row. I was there, all that type of stuff. So that was great. And then when I got to Indianapolis, obviously they didn't have a superstar quarterback. So that made it very easy to go in there and know, hey, this team is probably going to rely on the run game a lot more, which they had been doing with Jonathan Taylor. And that was a really cool moment for myself, just being able to pair with him for a year and a half, and just seeing how a guy of his caliber, a guy who was, somebody I was always watching as well at the same time in college, how he prepared, how he worked. And then, obviously he had an unfortunate injury from the year before that allowed myself to get some time in there. And like I said before, it's all about, going back to these guys that's coming into the draft. It's all about opportunities, all about, scheme, right? Like that was the perfect scheme for myself where, maybe if I go there, from the draft, what does those couple years look like before going to Buffalo, where a place where you're not being asked to be used at a high level rate, right? So scheme matters a lot, and it can just be career altering to some degree, right? It can be that saying that, okay, you go for here, you're going to have success, right? You still got to show up and go do the thing every day. But specifically a running back, man, like it matters, because when you play with these high caliber quarterbacks, even when I was in Cincinnati with Joe Burrow, you didn't run the ball a ton, right? It had to be beyond efficient when you did run the ball, because they would look at it, right? Think about it, if you guys, I don't know, you play video games, your kids, Madden, right? If you get a 2-3 yard run, and you got a guy who has a 95, 97 overall at quarterback, you're probably gonna be like, hey, let's throw this thing, especially when you have the weapons that you have with a Jamar Chase and a T. Higgins, right? And that's how just overall we're all human. So then you put himself in the coach's position. That's how they look at it. It's like, man, we got 2 yards on 1st and 10. Now we're looking at 2nd and 8. All these blitzes are going to come down. It might shrink the playbook. They only have so many plays that they like to get to on a 3rd and 6, right? Every play is not open on a 3rd and 6. Every play is not open on a 2nd and 8, right? So 1st down really, really is the biggest down for a lot of different reasons, but it sets up the entire drive. That's why sometimes they say, you hear broadcasters say, hey, let's just get the first down here.
Yeah. Wow, great stuff. Zack Moss, thank you so much for your time, the legendary Utah Ute running back. Appreciate it very much. Be well, man. Thank you.
Thanks,
No
Zach.
problem, man. Appreciate it, guys. Take care.
Great to visit with Zack Moss, the first 3-year 1,000-yard rusher at Utah, 4,000 yards overall at Utah, and was putting together a pretty good NFL career before that vertebrae injury where he broke his neck and still played for 2 months, which is one of the most insane things I've ever heard in my entire life. Yeah, I broke my neck in 3 places. Didn't even know.
Dude was a beast at Utah. He had just some massive games. 1,500 yards, 15 touchdowns his last year. And that 2019 Utah team was stacked, and one of Kyle Whittingham's best Utah teams.
That's James Wesley. I'm Ari Tepkin. It's Big 12 today. Our full court review, Modelo Big 12 basketball team recaps, goes with Colorado next. It's Big 12 today.
On 3rd and 12, backside heat, fumbled it, it came out. Ball's on the ground. Cougars recover at the 5. Big hit by Jack Kelly.
3rd and 16. Jordan over the middle again. It's caught by Alvarez, but he's going to be taken down at the 39. It's Shooty Hoops. Here's the pick. It's blocked. And BYU trying to run it back here. Jack Kelly, who just made the defensive play. And now he does this.
Pressure coming from Kelly. Dampier hit, and down he goes. Jack Kelly may have sealed it for BYU. Inside pressure on Hauser, and he's dropped. Jack Kelly, it was just a matter of time.
For the season, getting worked on here. Backside pressure. Hauser feels it, will not get away. And that is number 2 for Jack Kelly.
On the draw, dangerously close to being a safety. Micah Ford hit by who else? The ubiquitous, ever-present Jack Kelly. Salter flushed out, being spotted, dragged down at the 38-yard line by Jack Kelly.
Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio. We are presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios. We've had all these football series throughout the offseason, and if you missed any of them, whether it's, spring football feature on your team or NFL draft features, check out the TuneIn app where we are streaming all of these segments as shows outside of our live show. So even if we're not live from 7 to 10 a.m., which we are each and every weekday morning, we have plenty of great content we've done that you could be finding in different spots throughout the channel, including our draft coverage as well. So make sure to check that all out. There's so much, it's hard to tell you specifically anything, but just make sure to check out the channel and see.
We talk NFL draft. NFL draft is us.
Yes, exactly. And so too is our Modelo post-mortem, if you will. Will you? You might not.
I will.
Okay, thank you. Our full court review, Modelo's Big 12 basketball team recaps. Colorado today is working our way up from 16-1. We've got the 11 seed Colorado Buffaloes that finished 17-16 and 7-11 in the Big 12. And while most of the teams we've talked about so far are coming off hugely disappointing seasons, I think there's a couple of ways to look at Colorado's season. And that, is ultimately that after, maybe their worst season in program history, they followed it up and doubled their win total from the previous year in the Big 12. I think they far exceeded expectations and had really big-time players emerge, especially true freshmen. Now, with that being said, unfortunately, Isaiah Johnson's already out and going to Texas after the three-star came in and led Colorado to the season that he had. But there's certainly some optimism heading into 2027 with some of these guys back.
Yeah, definitely. And, Tad Boyle's been there a long time. He addressed the retirement rumors almost immediately right before the Big 12 tournament, said, I'll be back next year. I love coaching, and he's a Colorado guy, born and raised. But Colorado basketball fans are used to being in the NCAA tournament. Like, he has taken them to a lot of NCAA tournaments, and even with the last 2 years, he's won 20 or more games 5 of his last 8 seasons. So that was 5 of 6 before they rejoined the Big 12. So I would say from the year before, last year was definitely a massive uptick and a nice surprise. But even the year before, they showed signs. Remember, they won 2 of their last 3 games, 3 of their last 4, I should say, after they started like 0-13 or whatever it was in Big 12 play. They had more one-possession losses than anybody else in the conference. So last year, remember, they started really strong in the non-conference. They had some nice wins that maybe set up some false expectations. They went 7-11 in Big 12 play. They got beat by Oklahoma State in the Big 12 tournament. But then they played in the college basketball crown. So the fact that they still wanted to play says a lot about that locker room. They lost in the quarterfinals to Oklahoma in overtime, 90-86. So they haven't been to the tournament in 2 straight years. That's the headline. But there are some bright spots, like Barrington Hargris, who averaged 15 points and 5 assists. He's already said he's coming back. But then on the flip side, massive portal departures, which is like the damage is significant and surprising to me, because all of these guys, it was like a mass exodus almost within 24 hours of one another. All these guys announced that they were going to be in the portal, and they all had like NBA potential. Isaiah Johnson, the point guard. Sebastian Ronchik, the swing forward at 6'11", who saw a huge uptick in his production this year at 12 points per game from like 5 the year before. Bangot Dak is entering the portal, one of the league's best shot blockers. All 3 of those guys could have been NBA players, which is what Tad Boyle's known for. He develops guys, and he gets them to the league. They've had a ton of guys drafted over the last 3 or 4 years. So it's really surprising to see this much roster turnover at a place like Colorado, where that's never been the case for Tad Boyle, even in this new NIL era.
No, great point. And I think that's where, the successes, quote-unquote, of last year, where you talk about building something, like this is a team we talked about at the end of the year that could be, a big story heading into next season. And yet now there are going to be huge question marks because of the players they lost, including Isaiah Johnson. You'd hope that, that Tad Boyle finding Isaiah Johnson, harnessing that talent, like helping to develop him would have meant something. But He's off to Texas now, so he's just maximizing what he's got. Now, a couple of things to talk about. Number one, let's talk about what went wrong for Colorado last year, and that is they could not win close games. They had single-digit losses to Oklahoma State in the Big 12 tournament, Oklahoma in the college basketball crown, BYU in overtime on the road, Kansas, and then Texas Tech, all very close games. They just could not finish off down the end. So that tells me that's a young team that just didn't know how to finish games. The other thing was the defense. Their defense was terrible. They were 310th nationally in defensive rating at 112.4 points per 100 possessions. They gave 102 to Houston, 89 to Arizona. They scored 54 points in the paint against Arizona. Scored 54 points in the paint against Colorado. So we think about like Arizona feasting on teams in the paint. Maybe part of what we didn't notice and maybe why we thought they'd beat Michigan was like they were beating up on some really bad teams defensively on the interior, especially Colorado.
Yeah, there were two things that went wrong in terms of like X's and O's that it's been a problem the last 2 seasons. Number one is turnovers. I mean, Tad Boyle said we are creating new ways to turn the ball over. We just cannot figure it out. And then the other thing was the rebounding, which stems back to the defense. But to win 7 games in this league is a major building block for what should be an exciting offseason, and it just hasn't been with all these guys entering the portal because all these guys were freshmen when they went 3-17. Then they were sophomores with Dak and Ron Cheek, and they got a little bit better. I thought this year could be a major breakthrough season for Colorado, but now I'm not so sure. They only have 5 players on the roster right now. They haven't added any portal additions. It has me quite concerned and alarmed by maybe the lack of NIL that they have for basketball. Isaiah Johnson, like that one to me makes a lot of sense. He blew up as a freshman, right? Hidden gem, 17 points per game. Texas offered him a boatload of money that he couldn't pass up. But the others like Ron Cheek and Dak and guys that were diamonds in the rough that had showed major growth during their 2 years at Colorado that could be future pros. Like, I don't know how that's not more attractive to those guys when Tad Boyle has put KJ Simpson in the league, Tristan Da Silva, Cody Williams was a top 10 pick. All 3 of those guys. Derek White, Jabari Walker, Alec Burks, all of those guys. First round, some even lottery picks. And it's because they stuck it out and they developed under Tad Boyle. He is an incredible teacher of the game.
And I also think one of the big storylines here that's maybe underappreciated is the new athletic director, Fernando Lovo, who took over in January officially. And in 2025, Colorado spent about $8.6 million on its basketball roster, which was dead last in Power 5. And Lovo is going to invest in football, in basketball. I mean, if they double that number at $17 million, I mean that would rank 3rd in the Big 12 and 15th in the country. So anywhere in between 9 and 17 million is probably a much better number for them to be at. It's a big reason they lost Isaiah Johnson, and we'll see if that investment manifests itself. But look, I mean, $26 million deficit, largely driven by Colorado's football operation. I mean, Deion Sanders, the amount he costs is huge, and it's having an impact on basketball as well. And I think a big reason why Boyle is still around, despite losing all these players.
And that was my first thought, is they've got so much invested in Deion Sanders and the football program that there's nothing left over at Colorado. Now, glass half full angle would be that all 3 freshmen outside of Johnson that saw minutes are all back. Holland, Inman, Sanders started to log some quality minutes down the stretch. And Tad Boyle likes their toughness, their energy, their work ethic. So those guys are sticking around, and we'll see major upticks this year in their production. But what could be definitely, I thought, an NCAA tournament team this upcoming season. Now, if they have invested more in basketball, maybe Tad Boyle has something he's working up his sleeve in terms of the portal, because he is exceptional at identifying talent that is very much overlooked elsewhere. Barrington Hargress dropped 31 points in a game against Oklahoma in the college basketball crown. He was a big-time scorer at a very low-level college that transferred in last year and was a dude for them in the backcourt, and now they're building around him. So between the freshmen and the transfers, Tad Boyle's always great at finding these 3-star guys. I see a lot of parallels between Tad Boyle and TJ Otzelberger. Otzelberger just has a much larger budget. They're both exceptional coaches and exceptional talent identifiers and developers. So I'm not ready to like completely count Colorado out as a down season based off what they could still do in the portal. But I was really excited about these guys that were going to be in their third year.
Yeah, no, well said. In terms of their recruiting class, it's not ranked very high, but it's partially because two guys that are going to be pretty significant in their roster next year are two guys from Australia, Gok Malual and Alex Dickerson. Two guys, or Dickinson, I should say, coming in from Australia. And then, their one, American prospect, Ryder Portela, a four-star, high three-star, four-star according to 24/7. Rivals and ESPN both have him as a three-star, a 6'4" shooting guard from Phoenix, Arizona. So, it remains to be seen how good they can be next year because, again, if they brought back everybody from last year's team, you'd think this is a dark horse Big 12 title contender. Instead, unfortunately, we're left sort of shrugging and wondering what they're going to look like. Hargress being back is huge. This is a guy that really emerged last year as a transfer. And to your point, don't necessarily look at the transfer portal rankings for the guys they add because it seems like Boyle's always been able to get the best out of these guys.
Well, he had a really strong high school recruiting class that were freshmen last year. Isaiah Johnson, who was the star of that class, was the fourth highest rated player that went to Colorado. They had three guys that were rated higher than him out of high school. Two of those three are back, and they're both guards. Josiah Sanders was a top 130 player. He'll be back for his sophomore year. Jalen Holland was a top 150 player, rated 136 according to 24/7 Sports and their composite ratings, about the same spot as Akilian Torre at Iowa State. So those are now the guys that Tad Boyle will be developing. I still like their backcourt a lot. I mean, even with the loss to Johnson, having Hargress back and then Holland and Sanders getting more minutes, both Denver area natives, is a really good thing for Colorado, and I think they could be really fine there. It's the front line. What are they going to have on the interior? They always have these really long, lanky shot blockers. Right now they don't have anybody on the inside.
Yeah. All right, let's continue this conversation with our full court review of Colorado with Jack Carlo, publisher of Buffs Insider via 24/7 Sports. That's next. It's Big 12 Today, presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios.
Games this year. Gregory Nixon, Darren George, Deldre Carr, your officials to employ the full court pressure a whole lot in this game tonight. Brown the steal. And he hammers it through. Abby on a bounce and turns it over. Was trying to find Sanders across the lane. Here's Josiah Sanders wrapping it in for Colorado in transition. A 7-0 Colorado run. Corner pop. That's good. Dawes putback crawls off the front rim. Dawes saves it in bounds, but it's recovered by McKaylee. The Buffaloes with numbers, and McKaylee throws it down in transition.
3 turnovers, which is unbelievable to me.
That's always been a staple under Tad Boyle. Johnson the takeaway here and lays it in.
Move that I think I haven't seen all year, but he is just a natural scorer. And if you let Bangot, no, I know you and I have worked together before, so I know you would know me.
All right, this is out of a timeout, and Terrence Brown sticks the turnaround jump shot. He's doing everything in his power. Malone's perfect 3 for 3 from the field tonight. 6 points off the bench as Sanders turns and bounces it through.
As I say, a very creative type step-through move.
Holland going baseline. Dak puts it back. The stick back for Bangot Dak. And he's in Colorado. They shoot 60% tonight in Salt Lake City. And the Buffaloes lead wire to wire in a 92-78 win over Utah. Just their second true road win
Big 12 Radio, Big 12 Today, heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios with James Wesley. I am Ari Tepkin. Our full court review, Modelo Big 12 basketball team recaps. We're talking Colorado hoops. Jack Carlo from Buffs Insider joining us now here on Big 12 Radio. Jack, how are you?
Good. How are you? Appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, appreciate your time. There's been a lot of talk around the Colorado spring game, which has been very interesting.
Just like attendance and size. And, yeah.
The size thing is hilarious.
Will this be the smallest team to ever take the field in college football history?
No.
Why do they have so many little leaguers?
No, those are all skill position guys. I'm not worried about it.
Yeah,
their lines will be fine.
Yeah, we're with you on that. We were just joining the chorus of people that are probably a little bit short-sighted, and maybe that is a both literal and figurative thing. All right, let's talk basketball first. In some ways, a successful season. In other ways, not a successful season. It was a successful season relative to the previous year, where you had more than twice as many wins in Big 12 play, and guys emerged, but you don't make the tournament, and now guys that have emerged are on to someplace else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I would agree with you. It was definitely probably the funnest team that we've had in Boulder since I think they reached the NCAA tournament a couple of years ago. But yeah, unfortunately, you lose Isaiah Johnson in the transfer portal. That was obviously that was tough, as well as Bengot Dak and Sebastian Ranchik. Those three guys, they're going to be tough to replace in a lot of ways. But you still return a decent amount of that strong freshman class with Josiah Sanders, Ian Inman, and Jalen Holland. So optimistic about that moving forward. But yeah, again, I think a step in the right direction, at least in terms of how they competed in a really solid Big 12 conference.
Yeah, with Dak and Ranchik, I thought they had really nice seasons, and their numbers and their production had improved each year. Is there any chance that this could be, hey, let's just test the market to see what it could be, or is Colorado not in a position with NIL to have a shot at bringing those guys back?
I would doubt it at this point. I would assume that they're pretty much gone. I know Dak's already visiting a couple other schools. I think Miami, SMU, I think Oregon as well, and one other. Yeah, I mean, I know CU is still trying to build a lot of its kind of NIL foundation. Just got a new athletic director, Fernando Lobo, so I think that's headed in the right direction. But yeah, I'm sure a lot of that NIL money went to retaining Barrington Hargris, also who had a really good year, kind of as a guard next to Isaiah Johnson. But yeah, I wouldn't count on Dak and Ranchik returning at this point. Yeah, that's not typically something they do in Colorado.
What is the reality of Colorado's basketball NIL?
There's a lot of work that needs to be put into it. I know there's a report that came out earlier this month, or maybe late last month, that the new athletic director is working on doubling the funds and just the efforts and the money that they're putting into basketball. So that's obviously a great sign. But yeah, I mean, CU's not really in a spot right now to compete for some of those, top level transfers at the moment. I think with their budget right now, they'll find the most success finding, mid-major, lower major guys that were productive at their former schools. I think that's kind of the approach that Tad Boyle has to take at this point, just money-wise.
I mean, he's had success with that, with Barrington Hargris and some other guys in this portal era. He's also just an elite scouter and identifier of talent. So with that said, any word on guys Colorado might be talking to or hosting that they're looking at in the portal?
We haven't heard too much. I believe they hosted a transfer from North Dakota State. His name is slipping me at the moment. I know their biggest focus is on attracting big men. I haven't heard a lot so far, but Tad has said that he wants to grab at least two big guys out of the portal. Maybe a center and maybe power forward, I would assume, because they're losing Elijah Malone, who was their starting center, at least to begin the year. But it's been pretty quiet on that front. I think at least the first week or so of the transfer portal, I think he was more focused on retaining guys. I think we'll start hearing more about guys that are interested in CU probably these next few days.
So what is your read on next year? Because, again, like this used to be the type of situation where like Colorado, given last year's roster, may have been like a dark horse for the Big 12 championship next year. And, with the loss of some of these guys, it's like, are they starting back from scratch? Give us your read on how successful this team could be next year, and what are the expectations now with Boyle, given the realities of NIL?
Yeah. Also, real quick, it was Noah Feddersen, a center from North Dakota State, that was, I think, checking out CU. But
Nice.
So we'll keep in line him. But yeah, looking ahead to next year, I think a lot of it will obviously depend on how good of a transfer haul Tad Boyle will get. Because they really struggled in rebounding last year. I think that was kind of the biggest issue. So if they can shore up that area, I think they'll be okay. Offensively, I think a lot of it's just going to revolve around Barrington Hargress. He proved in the college basketball crown game, too, that he can be an elite scorer when he wants to be, when he has that opportunity. But, yeah, I think a lot of it will be on, yes, Hargress, and then those 3 returning freshmen kind of taking a step forward. Because, yeah, I mean, as well as being a top-level kind of evaluator of talent, Boyle takes a lot of pride in his development. So I think there's hope that some of those freshmen will take a step forward as sophomores. And if that happens, I think CU will be fine.
Yeah, we noted that, Colorado had a really strong recruiting class this past season. These guys will be sophomores now, even with 2 of them departing. The top 2 prospects are still there. So that's a really good thing. When it comes to the expectations for Colorado, you said it. I mean, 20-win seasons, NCAA tournaments. What are the expectations now that Colorado's rejoined the Big 12?
Yeah, I mean, the hope is obviously just to get back to the tournament. CU has never reached the Sweet 16 under Tad Boyle. Obviously, that's, I think, a mark that they want to take just with how long Boyle has been here. Yeah, I think just staying competitive. Obviously, it was a tough transition, I think, for CU going from the Pac-12 to the Big 12. We found some success in the Pac-12. I think they won the Pac-12 the first year CU was in it. But, yeah, I mean, 20-win seasons should be the goal. They haven't reached that mark the past 2 years. Obviously, I think CU's a ways away probably from competing with, against the Houstons and the Kansas and the the Arizonas, even though they played Arizona well last year. But I mean, if they can get into that top half of the conference, I think that's a solid for Tad Boyle, and just hitting that 20-win mark would be huge.
Anything else on basketball?
Let's pivot.
So football, I'm pretty optimistic, and it's centered on 2 things. 1, it feels like Dion is way better than when he's counted out. 2, I love Brendan Marion, and I think like Colorado's finally gonna have a run game with Marion and the go-go offense. But more to the point of like every time they count Colorado out and they become like the joke, it seems like that's when they have their best football.
Sure. Yeah. I love that mindset. I think another big thing with CU right now too is Coach Prime is healthy. He missed
Great
Texas
point.
all last summer pretty much. I think that definitely hurt them last fall. Now that he's in Boulder every day, I think that's going to be a huge bonus for this program.
Are you taking the over on the win? The win total's at like 4.5, but it's a brutal schedule. You guys play at Georgia Tech. You play at Northwestern in the non-conference. So what do you think is the benchmark in year 4?
Yeah, I'm optimistic about getting to a bowl game. I think 6-6 is definitely attainable. That would mean, doubling last year's win total. And they only won 1 game in the Big 12 last year. I don't think that's going to happen again. I'm optimistic about them taking a step forward. I think Julian Lewis got better and better as spring camp went on, so I'm optimistic about that. This go-go, we just had the spring game on Saturday. It was really fun to watch, and that was like a vanilla version of it too. But I think it's going to be super creative. It's going to make CU's defense better as well, just practicing against it every day. I think it's a tough schedule, obviously, but I think 6-6 is still attainable just with how much talent and the step forward they took on the coaching side of things.
All right, explain like we're 5. What is the go-go offense? Like what were your main takeaways?
It's kind of the best way Brendan Marion describes it, it's kind of a mix of several different type of offenses. He describes it as like it's kind of a hybrid option. It's going to feature a lot of two running back sets. I think that's kind of the most unique part about it for me. They're going to line up with either two running backs on the right side, two running backs on the left side, or kind of a split set. I think that just gives the quarterback a lot of different options. But at the same time, it also gives the quarterback the freedom to throw the ball down the field, obviously, when necessary. And CU's got a really solid transfer wide receiver in Danny Scudero.
Yeah.
Who looked really good at the spring game on Saturday.
Also tiny.
Yes, tiny. Yes. But this offense, again, it kind of lends itself well to smaller slot guys. So I think that's another big thing to note. But at the same time, I think Brendan Marion kind of expects all of his offensive playmakers to be versatile. So you're not just gonna, line up just in the slot or just on the outside. I think that's kind of a big aspect of it as well. But a lot of misdirection, and just a lot of tiny things that defenses just have to have a lot of discipline with.
Great stuff, Jack Harlow, publisher of Buffs Insider. Appreciate your time, Jack. Thanks so much. Be well.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Buff Insider via the 247 Sports and CBS Sports channels, along with James Wesley. I'm Ari Tepkin. It's Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. pick via the Minnesota Lynx. So the TCU star helps lead TCU to an Elite Eight and then gets drafted number 2 overall just behind Ozzie Fudd from the Dallas Wings, number 1 overall pick. Other Big 12 players drafted include 16th overall Marta Suarez to the Seattle Storm. Her draft rights were then turned around and traded to Golden State. Also, Dariana Littlepage Buggs from Baylor goes number 30 overall. Am I missing? Taylor Bigby, the other star from TCU, goes 37th overall to the Portland Fire. I believe that's it, yes?
Yeah, Portland Fire.
One more.
Lanny White from Utah.
Thank you. Lanny White as well. Missed her. She's 45th overall to the Minnesota Lynx. So 45 picks, 3 rounds with 15 teams. So the 16th overall pick, Marta Suarez, was the first pick of the second round.
And there's going to be 18 teams in the future with the Portland Fire and Toronto Tempo for the 2026 season. And then the league has approved further expansion to Cleveland, Detroit, and Philadelphia. So by 2030, the league will be to 18 teams. So this number is only going to grow. And to see what Miles was the highest drafted player ever from this conference, Mark Campbell, and that's one thing. Like, let's see what Mark Campbell does in the transfer portal on the women's side, right? Who are they targeting? Because he's been a portal factory to have Haley Van Lith and then Olivia Miles. Like, who's the best point guard in women's basketball in the portal right now? I'm sure TCU's talking to them because they have done nothing but help point guards be better prepared for the WNBA. And the second straight Horned Frog to win Big 12 Player of the Year and Newcomer of the Year was Olivia Miles.
I believe Haley Van Lith was a top 10 pick, top 5, but was not the second overall pick.
Correct.
So certainly an improvement for that from TCU.
Just to throw this out there, Nalissa Smith was taken number 2 overall by Indiana in 2022, and she was in the Big 12.
Yeah, of course.
In 2022?
Yes.
Okay, nice.
So second highest played. I'm sure Brittany Griner was number 1 overall when she was drafted.
Yeah. Took a stab at the highest drafted player in Big 12 history and completely whiffed. Griner was definitely number 1.
Yeah, Phoenix Mercury 2013 was when Griner was drafted number 1 overall. And just trying to look through the potential, like who currently is in the league that's former Big 12 players that are big-time players, most of them obviously from Baylor. And it's interesting to see the WNBA's growth. I mean, you mentioned kind of the addition of teams. They're still, I believe, losing money, but I think they're losing less money now than ever before. And, you know, I think there's definitely an increase from a media perspective on coverage of WNBA. So, I mean, the WNBA attracted an all-time record of more than 54 million unique views in 2024, and then, you know, basically 2025 increased that even 21% from 2024. So they're definitely seeing, you know, more interest, more growth in terms of the metrics for watching consumption. So we'll see if the revenue can get there too.
And they're trying to renegotiate their contracts so that WNBA players start making more money.
Well, that's the biggest thing. So they don't have to go play overseas, where they can make more money at this point.
Exactly. The top players in the women's college basketball portal, Audie Crooks is number 1 from Iowa State. That's no surprise. 26 points per game, just absolutely insane. But then, like, Kamora Johnson is in the portal. She was the really good player for Virginia. They got bounced by TCU in the NCAA tournament. Liv McGill from Florida. She's a guard, averaged 23 points per game this past season. Then you've got Jordan Lee at Texas, Zam Jones at NC State. Just seeing if there's any other Big 12 players in the portal. I don't see any outside of Crooks. So you've got some mid-major players. There's a 2-time All-Ivy League selection from Princeton that maybe some Big 12 schools would target, but that's one, like Mark Campbell is cleaned up in the portal at TCU. Kamora Johnson, I think, would be a phenomenal fit, and they just saw her. Like, he knows how good she is in real time after being all ACC. 19 points, 6 assists, 4.5 rebounds per game. That sounds like the next TCU Horned Frog. Again, that's just pure speculation. I have no inside info, But in terms of on paper, I mean, he's nabbed the number 1 point guard in the portal back-to-back years. So I'll be shocked if they don't get another like high-profile recruit to replace Olivia Miles.
Some pretty significant news in sports media this morning, specific to college sports, which is that Learfield Sports has been acquired by TPG, a private equity investor in media. And as Learfield posts on X, partnering with TPG will accelerate growth and innovation and will help Learfield and our partners to build an extraordinary future together. I believe this is a $2 billion private equity deal. So anytime somebody says that, you know, college sports isn't a business, you can draw them to this, you know, because obviously, you know, I want to say most recently Nick Saban continues to sort of trumpet that belief of amateurism, and you know, it's amateurism at this point for everybody but the athletes. And I will say, obviously, the athletes are cashing in now, so we have less amateurism. But you know, the quicker we get to collectively bargaining, the quicker everything will start to be policed in a much more efficient manner, and better off everybody's going to be. But you know, this is a huge. I mean, when you think about Learfield, so you know, Learfield has the audio rights for many colleges across the country, including, I mean, many Big 12 schools. But then they're also in the NIL space, so this is sort of an interesting spot for private equity to be entering.
Yes, it very much is. And TPG has been very aggressive in their sports investing business side of things. They've focused on companies and teams and even leagues. I'm sure that they've approached some of these conferences at the power level. They manage $303 billion in assets, and they actually tried to buy Learfield back in 2016. But Learfield has number one, you know, I used to think Learfield was just the radio the radio rights, right? You'd hear every broadcast and all the highlights we played during the season, courtesy of Learfield. But they're really the backbone of athletics, not just media, but sponsorship too. I mean, they sell signage, they sell billboard, like everything you can possibly imagine at the venues, on campus, they manage all of it for these universities. They represent more than 200 universities, but that number's down from what it used to be. A lot of these colleges are bringing their rights in-house. We saw it at Cincinnati. There was another Big 12 school, I think it was maybe Arizona State, Taman might know, but there's been a couple of schools, I shouldn't misspeak, that have brought their stuff in-house. Kentucky was really kind of like the big major player that did it. And so what does the future of that look like? It was Cincinnati, the latest school to bring its sponsorship sales in-house. What does that look like for this new group? It remains to be seen.
Yeah, the multimedia rights, the NIL Learfield Impact represents the marketing and sponsorship rights of 150-plus college properties and provides integrated college marks and IP alongside student-athlete marketing campaigns. So, you know, we're talking a ton about private equity getting into college sports, and, you know, they were going to break through at some point somewhere, and here's where they've done it. Learfield also has a data platform with the largest fan database in college athletics, with over 28 million fan records across the Big Ten alone, and 125-plus million records overall. So, I mean, it's targeted ticket sales, donor identification, sponsorship analytics, digital marketing strategies for partner schools. That might be the biggest business that they have that people don't know about. And then there's the content and studio side. Learfield's producing more and more content. They have the largest collection college athlete content platform, managing content production and distribution across all 150 Learfield sports properties. Last fiscal year, it generated over 1.2 billion impressions and delivered 50 million in branded content revenue. So, you know, this is going to deeply embed private equity into college sports. You know, it's here to stay, and I would imagine this will make it easier for colleges and for conferences to get in bed with private equity, because they're already there. They're already in the bed.
Right, and this is also not that if it goes poorly, conferences or schools at some point might be forced into this. But with that said, this is also good, a nice kind of like case study. Let's see how this works. Let's see, you know, how many years down the road are they truly flexing their muscles and things looking differently. But Learfield's like a really cool compound where they actually do all the radio broadcasts. So the guys that are back at the studio running the board and producing all these different radio broadcasts all over the country for all these different schools.
And that's in Jefferson City, Missouri.
They're headquartered in Jefferson City, Missouri, because Learfield was – no, you're right. No, that's all good. They were birthed right there in the center of Missouri in the state capital. And it's an awesome setup. Like, it's a massive 2-level facility that's got – the different football helmets for each studio, and they're all side by side, almost in like a cubicle fashion. It is a really awesome thing to see. And then they've got runners back and forth on college football Saturdays with score updates and in-studio hits and things like that. They've got production studios off to the side where guys are doing those canned updates. It's poetry in motion, truly, and they do a tremendous job. Tom Bowman is the GM that oversees all of the operational side, and he crushes it.
Yeah, and I hope that doesn't change with this acquisition, as we know that private equity likes to come in and make things run more efficiently.
Hey, let's move the studio to L.A. or New York City,
or reduce the studio by 50%.
Yeah.
And then they also have a pretty significant presence here in Dallas at their offices off the Tollway.
Yeah, the sales side is headquartered here in Dallas, so you have Dallas and Jefferson City are really the big two headquartered spots for Learfield.
But I mean, I think the important takeaway here is private equity investing in the infrastructure of college sports. Learfield, is known maybe most notably as being a media arm for colleges, but I mean the biggest business is the infrastructure. It's the multimedia rights, it's the IP, the intellectual property that they represent, it's the NIL, it's the fan database, it's the fan information that they have through ticket sales. So when you think about the infrastructure of how college sports breathes and lives and where the majority of the money is, that's what private equity is investing in here now.
And I think, Ben Portnoy is the one who broke the story, and he notes that one of the important points is that their strategy to get into college sports was more wholesale rather than going school by school. They saw that, hey, we can purchase this massive company that has all of the rights to all these different conferences, individual schools. I mean, it is a bundled opportunity for TPG.
Well, and the question then becomes, so I think there's two questions. One, I'm sure most people would have, which is this good or bad? And the answer is, it remains to be seen.
TBD.
The second question is, as you mentioned, a lot of these schools have now taken their multimedia rights in-house, which is a really good move. And so you wonder if this gives these universities more of an incentive to do so or less of an incentive to do so moving forward, right? I mean, because they also represent the NIL space, and it's sort of a one-stop shop for hey, if you want the marks and you want the official, university signage and whatnot, you need to go through us. That seems like a huge opportunity and advantage. And when you bring the private equity dollars associated with it, you think you could have a more aggressive multimedia rights approach. I guess it also is TBD on that, but I just wonder what all these schools who work with Learfield now in a multifaceted approach, whether it's media, multimedia rights, et cetera, if they pull away or if they lean further into it.
And my first thought, when with Learfield overseeing all these schools is you have Learfield reps who can represent multiple schools, right? And so you can bundle more of your sales. Is that better for the individual school, or is it better for the individual school to have their own reps representing them and themselves only? Well, then you get into the agency connections and the advertising connections there. But Nebraska was one of the first ones that made that leap. They eventually, and they tried to bring it in-house, and it didn't work. So keep that in mind. There have been schools that brought all their rights and their sales in-house, and it didn't work out. They eventually signed a deal with Playfly in 2022. Clemson brought theirs in-house. I think Arizona State, Stanford, and now Cincinnati. So there are a lot of Big 12 schools that are kind of trending this direction, at least 3 of the 16.
Yeah, and ultimately, Learfield needed this. They were settled with a ton of debt. They merged with IMG, then COVID. There were a lot of things that knocked Learfield into a situation with debt. So this gets them out of the debt. Now, we know private equity's in it to win it, right? So private equity, they buy and then sell at a higher rate. That's the whole purpose of it. Mm-hmm. They're not in it for the love of college sports or whatever else. They're in it to win it. That's private equity does, right? So this is expanding that portfolio, and my guess is in the next 5 to 10 years, this is not great for the sport overall, just based on precedent and reducing the workforce, spending less money, trying to maximize profits, cutting corners, etc. We'll see how it plays out, but certainly don't know that this is better for the product overall.
Well said. And Learfield was getting really creative in the way that they were distributing their broadcasts. Every school under Learfield now has like a play-by-play video cam for each broadcast, and so they were coming up with new innovative ways to distribute their audio and connect with fans, and that's the angle for me that I'm excited to see what that potentially looks like.
Yeah, great point. All right, Big 12 today, Big 12 Radio presented by Modelo, heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. Hearty thank you to Anthony Smith, our producer with Big 12 Studios, and of course to Taman Turner, T-Chain's our producer here with Big 12 Radio. For James Westling, I'm Ari Temkin. We are back tomorrow where our deep dive into the draft continues as we talk Kansas and wide receivers. So it should be a fun one. Plus, who's our basketball program recap for tomorrow?
BYU.
Talking BYU hoops and maybe some significant improvements to the defensive side of the ball for BYU. That's all on tomorrow's show. But for now, we're out. Peace.